insect cloud, flying swords, souls, corpse hands, heavenly thunder, all launched round after round of frenzied attacks on the battlefield. The swarm tore flesh and blood. The flying swords whistled past. Souls coiled into rivers, and corpse hands climbed aboard. Add to that the thousand-hand centipede's own body, which also engaged in a bloody brawl with Du Xiaochang. As they fought, blood and flesh flew everywhere. Relying on its massive size and superior self-healing ability, the thousand-hand centipede traded wound for wound with Du Xiaochang. Under this relentless assault, the starlight on Du Xiaochang's body gradually dimmed. Dragged into a war of attrition, he was slowly worn down. No matter how divine his power, he, unable to fly, was at a loss against Su Jie. Enjoy more content from Novelbin.com. Conversely, Su Jie, despite feeling pained by his broken flying swords, scattered souls, and human-faced moths reduced to mince, found such losses completely acceptable. On another part of the battlefield, Missouri Shiryao saw Du Xiaochang get trapped and gradually fall into disadvantage. Her heart instantly tightened. She had not expected that with Du Xiaochang's strength, he would actually be at a disadvantage in the fight. Seeing that the situation was unfavorable for her side, Mo Shiryao had no choice but to use her trump card. True Word, Star River Sword. Mo Shiryao paid a great price to forcibly wield the secret technique, spitting fresh blood onto the ancient zither, her complexion instantly turning as pale as paper. The ancient zither then echoed with haunting melodies, seemingly connecting with a certain star. The void shuddered, lights flooded the sky, and an aurora dragged a long tail of light, bringing a vast and terrifying presence from above the heavens. The area within 10 miles was illuminated by the aurora. Birds and beasts fled in terror, and the old and strong trees were bent over, as if a natural disaster had struck. The aurora moved extremely quickly, 1 second still far in the horizon. The next instant it rushed close by, its powerful spiritual power turning into a light sword, carrying utmost beauty and endless lethal force. Su Jie looked up, his face serious, planning to summon the thousand-hand centipede to help defend. But at that moment, a sharp yell came from the dense forest. "Hey, vicious woman! I haven't lost yet." Ning Xinyue moved both her hands to cast spells. Layer upon layer of ice pressed upward from the ground, forming a giant throne of ice. Atop the throne, the ice goddess sat in the void, extending a jade hand into the air. River Map Sky Void Skill. Ning Xinyue called upon her cultivation of the River Map Sky Void skill, her movements mirroring those of the ice goddess on the throne. Crack! The ice goddess's right hand, composed of frost and cold, expanded mid-journey, becoming a sky-supporting giant hand that grabbed the radiant aurora. Boom! In an instant, the world seemed to turn upside down, as if to rip the sky dome apart. 2 ultimate attacks collided with a roar. Terrifying shockwaves spread in every direction. Finally, both the aurora and the ice goddess dissipated, and Ning Xinyue's complexion also faded, suffering a significant backlash. "Thanks for that." Su Jie nodded towards Ning Xinyue's direction and then redoubled his efforts against Du Xiaochang. At this moment, Du Xiaochang's body was drenched in blood. His arms weakly held as if bearing a mountain, and heavily plummeted downward. Boom! The thousand-hand centipede descended, numerous pale corpse hands broken. Its body split in half from the middle. But soon, at the severed end of the thousand-hand centipede, tiny centipedes emerged from the flesh, sticking together and instantly recovering their wholeness, though their size was significantly reduced. ZZZ. The thousand-hand centipede's counterattack was fierce. It stood upright, clamping onto Du Xiaochang's waist with its deadly bite, and with its brutish insect body, it slammed him hard against a mountain peak. Rocks tumbled down, and the earth cracked open. Following that, the centipede's facial armor emitted streaks of purple light. The high temperature ignited the air, melted the mountains, and also struck Du Xiaochang. By this time, Du Xiaochang, worn out by the incessant battles, was severely sapped of his vitality and could scarcely dodge, being hit squarely by dozens of high-temperature beams. Holes opened all over Du Xiaochang's body, His left arm was completely melted. His liver was pierced by the high-temperature beams, and his intestines were exposed. Roar! Du Xiaochang became even more frenzied, like a cornered beast fighting back in its death throes. His whole body's essence blood boiling and burning. He crouched on the ground and leaped high into the air. His body released starlight like a bursting mountain torrent, using blood as the guide. The blood flowing from his body pooled beneath his feet into a bloody crystal platform, creating a staircase to ascend to heaven, heedlessly rushing towards Su Jie in the sky. Thousands of thunders. Seeing his opponent's attempt to take his own life, Su Jie continued to ascend, all the while releasing purple cloud heavenly thunders, bombarding Du Xiaochang until his skin split and his flesh burst. Below, the less than 10,000 human-faced moths, a dozen or so flying swords, and several thousand Yin souls stubbornly flew over, surrounding the sky-stepping Du Xiaochang, launching frenzied attacks. Even if they would be blown to bits by Du Xiaochang's punch or annihilated by his palm, these moths and Yin souls did not hesitate for a second, surging forward like moths to a flame, bit by bit depleting Du Xiaochang's physical strength, spiritual power, and life force. The thousand-hand centipede also soared into the sky, blocking Du Xiaochang's path. This relentless barrage of attacks, unending and overwhelming, would have driven a common man to despair, but Du Xiaochang was a man of immense perseverance. Even in death, I'll drag you to hell with me. Du Xiaochang was almost drained of his essence blood, his body like a great rock bird, his flesh and blood obscured by the thunder strike. His heart had been penetrated by the white-boned sky-slaying sword, and the human-faced moths crawled into his chest cavity through the wounds, feasting on his fragile organs while Yin souls shredded his soul, leaving it fragmented. With his last breath, Du Xiaochang broke through the onslaught of thunder strikes, flying insects, Yin souls, flying swords, and the thousand-hand centipede's defenses, finally reaching Su Jie, who stood on a cluster of small centipedes as his foothold. At this point, there was hardly an inch of intact flesh on his body. His spiritual power was depleted, his breath hanging by a thread, his eyes still filled with rage as he stared at Su Jie and swung his last punch. This punch carried all his raging fury, with the brilliance of starlight bursting forth like a long river. The sky trembled, the clouds were blasted apart, delivering a supremely transcendent punch. Bang! The starlight exploded all around, and Su Jie's body burst apart. Something's not right. The sensation of the hit was off, and in the next moment, Du Xiaochang's eyes widened in shock because Su Jie's body dissipated into smoke in front of him, and at the same time, a light laugh sounded from behind. TCH, worthy of the Jade Sun true body, truly terrifying. You almost killed me there. The familiar voice made Du Xiaochang twist his head in disbelief, only to see at the thousand-hand centipede's back, where the insect armor had shattered, turning into tiny centipedes the length of chopsticks, gushing out like a fountain. And the real body of Su Jie, amidst the swarm of tiny centipedes erupting, slowly revealed himself. Unbeknownst to him, Su Jie had already stealthily infiltrated within the thousand-hand centipede's body, and the figure left outside was nothing but a shadow remnant created by the mysterious shadow secret technique. Severely injured, with his soul torn apart, Du Xiaochang had not discerned the false body and had wasted his last attack in vain. You! Despicable! Pointing at Su Jie, Du Xiaochang's pupils dilated. His lips parted as if he wanted to say something more, but his body no longer allowed him to do so. Before he could finish a complete sentence, the last vestige of life in his body dissipated. His life force severed, like a wing-clipped eagle plummeting from the sky to the ground. Despicable, eh? For a demon cultivator, that should be considered a compliment. A slight curve formed on Su Jie's lips as the swarm of insects carried Du Xiaochang's corpse towards him. No. Having witnessed Du Xiaochang's fall, Missouri Shiryao's clear eyes stared blankly ahead, her body completely still, tears already blurring her vision. Return brother Du to me. After snapping back to reality, Mo Shiryao embraced her ancient zither and began strumming with both hands, sending out mysterious heavenly sounds that transformed into divine weapons, attempting to retrieve Du Xiaochang's body. If you want to take back the body, First see if you can get past the swarm of insects. Su Jie issued a challenge like a true villain, while swallowing an elixir to restore his depleted spiritual power and orchestrating the swarm to block the divine weapons of Miao Yin. Hum, hum. The human-faced moths formed a sparse swarm. The white-boned sky-slaying sword whistled through the air, and only a few thousand Yin souls remained, unable to even conjure a blood river. While Du Xiaochang had been eliminated, Su Jie's forces had also suffered greatly. Now, only the thousand-hand centipede retained its formidable combat strength. Decisively, Mo Shiryao attacked, sending one divine weapon after another flying towards her target. The white-boned sky-slaying sword went to meet the assault, flying straight towards Mo Shiryao, while the Yin souls enveloped each of the divine weapons. Clang! The sound of the zither rose in waves, the reverberations forming a bell-shaped dome above Mo Shiryao's head. The white-boned sky-slaying sword plunged into the surface of the bell, half its tip piercing through, its sharp sword chi leaking out, causing a trickle of blood to appear in the center of Mo Shiryao's brow, almost penetrating her head. It was evident that from her earlier clash with Ning Xinyue, her body had been severely overdrawn. She had not yet recovered. "Made Ning go!" Su Jie called out to Ning Xinyue, all the while dividing his attention to deal with the Miao Yin divine weapons. "Always bossing me around." Ning Xinyue puffed her cheeks in frustration, but despite her words, she still made her move. With one handprint, Ning Xinyue unleashed the Five Elements demon-suppressing handprint. A 3-foot-wide handprint, shining with the lustrous light of 5-colored glaze, struck the bell, causing several new cracks to appear on its surface. Clang, clang, clang. Ning Xinyue's palms produced a rapid series of strikes, as spiritual power surged within her. This time, she didn't use the 5 Elements demon-suppressing handprint, but instead summoned the special frosty air from her Xianyin body, forming streams of cold frosty air that froze layer upon layer of solid ice on the surface of the bell. Under the extreme cold, even as Mo Shiryao continued to strum her zither, strengthening the sonic bell, it did no good. More and more cracks appeared on it. At the same time, Su Jie, riding atop the thousand-handed centipede, approached, ready to deal with this last troublemaker. Boom! The immense body of the thousand-handed centipede collided with the sonic bell, acting as the final straw that broke the camel's back. The bell shattered, and beams of light scattered all around. Mo Shiryao bit her lip fiercely, knowing that the situation was beyond recovery. If she had the capability, Du Xiaochang wouldn't have died just moments earlier, and a 2-on-2 had already failed. Now with only her alone, how could she possibly turn the tables against two? Whoosh! Clutching her ancient zither, Mo Shiryao's graceful body seemed to transform into a sonic rainbow light, fluttering among the descending pale corpse hands, making her escape. Crack! Su Jie turned his head to the side, dodging the flying sonic rainbow light. Numerous terrifying corpse hands, human-faced moths, and flying swords chased after the enemy, following his intent. Having failed to strike successfully, Mo Shiryao still wanted to play another tune on her ancient stringed instrument. Who dares to act so recklessly here? Suddenly, a roar came from a distance. They saw a demon fox stepping on the void, rushing over from the horizon. Su Jie, I, Mo Shiryao, will not let you go. Sooner or later, I will take your head to pay homage to Brother Du, she vowed. Finally giving up, Mo Shiryao's exquisitely beautiful face was filled with sparkling teardrops in her eyes, as she looked at Su Jie with immense hatred and resentment. It seemed as though she wanted to deeply engrave his appearance in her memory. As her words ended, she suddenly broke the strings of the instrument, destroying it, and triggered a wave of light from within. Her body was then swept away by the light wave, drifting far into the distance, disappearing into the dense forest. Phew! Having let out a sigh of relief after Mo Shiryao's departure, Su Jie collapsed, sitting down on the back of the thousand-handed centipede. Waves of intense pain radiated through his mind, as if countless steel needles were jabbed into his head. Relying on the power of the divine soul, after unleashing so many bouts of purple cloud heavenly thunder, Su Jie himself was nearing the end of his strength, on the brink of reaching his body's limit. In addition, due to the depleted spiritual power within his body, and the sparse swarm of insects and flying swords left, Mo Shiryao still retained her combat strength. It was impossible for Su Jie to catch up. Once the battle ended, the thousand-handed centipede landed on the ground with Su Jie and stood by his side vigilantly. Ning Xinyue ran over and saw the thousand-handed centipede baring its fangs and grimacing, its cold insect eyes staring at her. "Xiao Qian, I'm here to help with his healing," she said. Ning Xinyue approached cautiously and finally gained the thousand-handed centipede's approval to come near Su Jie. She took the initiative to take out a jade bottle and poured out 2 elixirs. These 2,000-year-old jade marrow pills are mid-grade elixirs. They have excellent healing effects, she explained. This was the first time Ning Xinyue saw Su Jie in such a weakened state. The pressure Du Xiaochang had brought was too strong. His divine power was like a vast ocean, and his physique was incredibly powerful. Although Ning Xinyue had awakened her Shenin body, her combat experience was too shallow. If she faced Du Xiaochang, she wouldn't be able to talk about winning. Escaping successfully would be considered a success. "It's not poison, is it?" Su Jie said, sitting cross-legged on the ground, meditating to recover his chaotic inner breath. "Humph, if you don't want it, forget it," Ning Xinyue said, arrogantly lifting her little head. "I'll trust you this time," he said. When Su Jie smelled the faint fragrance of the elixirs, his damaged meridians felt like drought-stricken land receiving timely rain, starting to heal. After making sure, Su Jie took the elixirs and swallowed them. The effect was quick. The pain in his brain eased a lot, and the damaged meridians were also continuously repairing. At this moment, there was a disturbance in the sky again, and a demon fox descended from above. Several figures jumped down from the back of the demon fox. The leader was Xiao Fengyuan, who Su Jie had met once before, along with several of his companions. Its corpse hand manslaughter Su Jie. How did he get into such a state? This whole area looks like it's been bombarded. Just what kind of enemy was he fighting? The demon cultivators looked at the severely damaged surroundings. Every few dozen meters, there was a large pit, with smoldering charred earth inside, as if the area had been bombarded by heavy artillery. These were caused by the purple cloud heavenly thunder. The dire state of the environment shocked them. What level of confrontation would cause such destruction to the environment? Xiao Fengyuan glanced at the thousand-hand centipede, his eyes showing surprise, and then he clasped his hands and said, "Junior brother Su, are you all right?" "I'm fine. Eliminating a strong enemy is not a wasted trip." Su Jie coughed dryly twice, discreetly remaining on alert as he observed Xiao Fengyuan. If the other party showed any sign of taking advantage of the situation, Su Jie would immediately have the thousand-hand centipede carry him away. Luckily, Su Jie was overcautious. Xiao Fengyuan seemed to guess Su Jie's thoughts, voluntarily stepped back a few steps and said, "Don't misunderstand. I came to see the situation. The noise of the fight here was too loud, and I hurried over when I heard it. It's good that everything is fine. Thank you for your concern, Brother Xiao." Su Jie stood up from the ground, patted the thousand-hand centipede, and smiled. "Lately, I've been overly aggressive. The righteous sect specifically sent masters to target and assassinate me. But luckily, my poisonous insects are quite powerful. I've killed one and let another escape." The thousand-hand centipede shook its body. Its ferocious and fierce appearance made several other demon cultivators, besides Xiao Fengyuan, pale. Their movements became extremely gentle, afraid to stir up loud noises and be swallowed by this massive creature. Xiao Fengyuan had also heard of Su Jie's style and knew that he had killed many recently. It wasn't surprising that the righteous sects would send a special team to target him. I wonder who initiated the attack. With this thought, Xiao Fengyuan directly asked the question. "Look over there." Su Jie pointed at a corpse covered by human-faced moths. As the moths took flight, Du Xiaochang's corpse was also exposed. A man named Du Xiaochang, who claimed to be a disciple of Zhuang Liangru, and a woman named Mo Shiryao, both are first-class fierce fighters. Su Jie rubbed his still aching head and said with lingering fear, Jade Sun true body, Du Xiaochang, Qingyin Fairy, Mo Shiyao. At the sight of Du Xiaochang's corpse, Xiao Fengyuan's composure was shaken. He was utterly astonished and even found it hard to believe. Are these two very famous? Su Jie asked, having the human-faced moth bring over Du Xiaochang's body. Both of them are well-known young talents amongst the cultivators in Qingzhou, especially Du Xiaochang, whose Jade Sun true body is exceptionally domineering and divine power is unmatched, reputed to be invincible in close combat under the Qingzhou secret realm. Xiao Fengyuan's spirit was shaken, and as he looked at Su Jie, shock mixed with a trace of admiration emerged in his eyes. This man indeed possesses divine valor in close combat. Su Jie nodded. It was fortunate that he had not let his opponent close the distance. Otherwise, the outcome would still be uncertain. To speak the truth, even if I faced this man, the chances of victory would at most be 50-50. I can't imagine that tonight you managed to strike him down, junior brother Su. Haha. Those righteous sects definitely couldn't have anticipated this. This act will greatly boost the morale of our Ghost Ridge Palace. After overcoming his shock, Xiao Fengyuan couldn't help but get excited. For the currently besieged Ghost Ridge Palace, the emergence of this news would be a strong tonic, boosting the spirit of the entire sect. The others, upon hearing Su Jie and Xiao Fengyuan's conversation, also came to understand that the person Su Jie had slain was such an important figure. Brother Xiao, don't praise me too much. Look at me. I was almost killed by him. I managed to kill him only because he underestimated me and was careless. It was merely a stroke of luck. Su Jie didn't show much happiness on his face. Having heard what Xiao Fengyuan said, Su Jie figured he was probably on the blacklist of the righteous sects now, which wasn't good news for him. However, things having reached this point, Su Jie had no regrets about killing Du Xiaochang. The conflict between factions was indeed a matter of life and death. If Du Xiaochang hadn't been killed earlier, it would have been Su Jie who died.
Su Jie.
At this moment, Chen Yun, who had left earlier, also returned with Yin Wenwen to this place. Seeing the chilling battlefield, her heart was stricken with fear. If she had stayed here just a moment ago and had been accidentally caught in the battle, she wouldn't even know how she died. This is not a place for discussion. Junior brother Su, seeing that you are seriously injured, you should return to the mountain gate to recuperate first. Xiao Fengyuan took the initiative to speak up. The commotion of the previous battle had been great, but whether it was the righteous disciples or the demon cultivators, those who saw the skirmish from afar didn't dare come near. Xiao Fengyuan's boldness to approach was purely due to his exceptional skills and courage. Now that Su Jie had killed Du Xiaochang and Mo Shiyao had fled, who knew if there would be any retaliatory actions? To prevent other righteous sect disciples from rushing here, it was wise to retreat first. Su Jie unleashed his corpse hands. Numerous pale corpse hands emerged from his trouser legs, quickly crawling around to collect broken flying swords, dead insect remains, etc., and also took Du Xiaochang's storage bag. As expected, there were no magic artifacts and talismans in this storage bag. Du Xiaochang had not used them before, seemingly afraid that using these items would affect his cultivation mindset of proving his path through power. Although there were no magic artifacts, there were various elixirs and spirit stones, roughly estimated to be worth about 20,000 low-grade spirit stones, which could be considered a massive harvest. After collecting the spoils of battle, Su Jie, along with Chen Yun, Yin Wenwen, and Ning Xinyue, mounted the thousand-hand centipede and soared towards the mountain gate. With Xiao Fengyuan escorting nearby, riding the four-eyed illusion demon fox, he ensured no mishaps occurred. In this manner, one leading and the other following, by the time Su Jie returned to Ghost Ridge Palace's mountain gate, dawn had arrived, and a red sun was slowly rising on the horizon. Flying arbitrarily within the mountain gate was not allowed, as there were various lethal formations here. Su Jie quickly landed on the steps in front of the mountain gate. Dozens of station members of the law enforcement team immediately surrounded them. In a short while, when Du Xiaochang's body was displayed, almost half of the Ghost Ridge Palace was stirred. Disciples ran over one after another, crowding around to view the Jade Sun true body and praising each other. That is Brother Su. He's the one who killed the Jade Sun true body. This man was a grand cultivator of the Taoist platform realm, a direct disciple of Zhuang Liangru. Yet he still got bitten to death by the centipede controlled by Brother Su. Mid-grade 4 refinement poisonous insect. How is it cultivated? My own poisonous insect can't even break through low grade. I can't imagine how strong such an insect is. No wonder it could kill Du Xiaochang. Brother Su is powerful. Brother Su is powerful. A chorus of noisy discussions echoed around, the disciples' expressions excited, eventually escalating into chanting Su Jie's name in unison. Su Jie, you did very well this time, very well indeed. Master Zhua, sheeping himself, stepped out of the mountain gate and welcomed Su Jie at the steps, his face beaming with a radiant smile. Master Zhua, fortunately, I have completed the mission without any mishaps. Su Jie felt Zhua Shiping's unprecedented warmth. Zhua Shiping laughed heartily and said, "Ha ha, you're still so humble at this time. Don't worry, after I report this victory to our sect master, he will definitely reward you generously. Now go and rest to heal your injuries." Disciple obeys. Su Jie nodded and returned to his own residence. Meanwhile, behind him, Ghost Ridge Palace had become buzzing with activity. Du Xiaochang's body was paraded through the streets, and soon, Su Jie's name was known in every corner of Ghost Ridge Palace, truly known by everyone. Atop the sky dome floating magic boat, the atmosphere in the grand hall was unusually heavy, like the oppressive calm before a storm, making it hard for anyone to breathe. Zhuang Liangru sat upright in his chair, his face clouded over with dark fury, a rage that seemed impossible to suppress, and deep in his eyes was a trace of sorrow that couldn't be wiped away. Next to him sat the master of Miao Yin Temple, Xiaoning, also seated here. Even with a veil covering her face, it was evident that her complexion was very poor. Yaoer, you've disappointed your teacher greatly, Xiaoning said with a sigh, looking at the disciple kneeling before her. Master Elder Zhuang, it's my fault for not saving Brother Du, it's all my fault. Mo Shiyao's tears had already streaked her beautiful face, and she knelt on the ground, sobbing non-stop, thinking of how Du Xiaochang was not only beaten so miserably but also failed to recover his body. She couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sadness, crying even more heartbreakingly. Crack! Zhuang Liangru sat alone in his chair, with dark red lightning streaking across the void around him, and the sound of thunderous rumbling filled the room with an air of deadly silence. This was a capability unique to the Taoist platform realm. The soul was itself heavenly might, and the various emotions of a person could cause phenomena in the heavens and the earth, indicating the extent of his rage. Brother Zhuang, restrain your grief. The dead cannot be brought back to life. Xiaoning turned to comfort Zhuang Liangru, knowing that although Zhuang Liangru had more than one disciple, Du Xiaochang was his only direct disciple. The man was extremely talented and had a powerful divine body. He had made quite a name for himself in Qingzhou, recognized as a reserve of the Taoist platform realm. It was said that he could have broken through to the secret realm much earlier but chose to suppress his cultivation and refine his foundation to perfection, aiming for higher achievements in the future, and had always been regarded by Zhuang Liangru as his successor. Now he had perished in the territory of Ghost Ridge Palace, a young life with barely a tenth of his talent and genius fulfilled, truly a cause for endless sorrow. Su Ye. Zhuang Liangru's voice seemed to drift out from the Nine Netherworld. It was he who had personally ordered Du Xiaochang to go to the territory of Ghost Ridge Palace to execute Su Jie. He hadn't imagined that this parting would be forever. What kind of means does this person possess, Yaoer? Tell me in detail how you could have been defeated so miserably. Is the enemy truly that strong? The atmosphere in the room was so tense that even Xiaoning, a powerhouse of the secret realm, felt alarmed. Concerned that Mo Shiryao might bear the brunt of the anger, Xiaoning took the initiative to ask about the full story. That Su Jie is also a person with a divine body, wielding a mysterious heavenly thunder, and hanging on his waist is a sword-nourishing gourd, nurturing over 100 flying swords and tens of thousands of flying insects, among which there are not only low-grade but also middle-grade poisonous insects, as well as a ghost banner wrapped in insouls. His life-bound poisonous insect is a 1,000-handed centipede over 10 zhang long, a mid-grade 4 refinement poisonous insect. Speaking of the battle, Mo Shiyao gritted her teeth in anger and said resentfully, "What's more, this person's methods are utterly despicable, with no regard for martial virtue." Capitalizing on his flying ability, he struck from high above, attacking and harassing Brother Du from the sky, using a myriad of poisonous insects and insouls to deplete Brother Du's physical strength and spiritual power. In the end, Brother Du was worn down to death. This man must not be spared. Hearing her disciple's words, Xiaoning couldn't help but be shocked. With such numerous attack methods and powerful poisonous insects, along with the flying ability usually only possessed by those in the secret realm without relying on external objects, it was no wonder Du Xiaochang was defeated by the opponent. Such a demon cultivator so powerful in the Yunling realm, if he were to break through to the secret realm and be given time to grow, he would likely become another powerhouse of the secret realm, at the level of people like Taoist Qiu and Tang Peiqing. Besides that Su Jie, there was another female demon cultivator at the scene. She has a Xianin body constitution, and she was holding me back, so I couldn't provide help to Brother Du. Mo Shiyao provided the complete account of the incident without hiding any details. It was at this moment that Zhuang Liangru slowly spoke, his eyes filled with murderous intent, and his voice, booming like thunder, spread across the heavens. "Issue an order. The one who kills Su Jie shall be rewarded with 100,000 spirit stones." The voice carried far and wide, and in order to avenge Du Xiaochang, Zhuang Liangru was willing to offer a hefty reward of 100,000 spirit stones for Su Jie's head. Meanwhile, at the checkpoint leading to the outside world of Ghost Ridge Palace, atop a towering tower, over 20 elders of Ghost Ridge Palace were seated cross-legged, their auras intertwining. The terrifying presence caused ripples in the void. Beneath their cushions lay the array eye that connected and controlled the mountain protection array that shielded the entire territory of Ghost Ridge Palace. They had to maintain the operation of the mountain protection array while also dealing with the assaults from the righteous sect's secret realm, which meant nearly all available elders were mobilized. Most had gathered here to guard against the righteous sect's offensive. Had it not been for the mountain protection array, and the enemy's fear of an Insect Valley uprising, Ghost Ridge Palace could never have withstood the combined forceful assault of the 5 righteous sects. Caw! A golden messenger crow flew to the window, its amber eyes lively as it looked at those present, then hopped and jumped towards Sect Master Zhang Junwei, delivering the letter tied to its left leg. Zhang Junwei's face was solemn as he took the letter with gravity. This kind of golden messenger crow was used by the elders to convey important messages, signifying that the news was extraordinary. Currently, only a few elders stationed at the mountain gate of the inner sanctum of Ghost Ridge Palace would not easily leave their strategic post. Could it be that the righteous sect had broken through, attacking the mountain gate? A bad premonition flashed through Zhang Junwei's mind as he tore open the envelope and began to read the letter word by word. However, as he read on, the solemn expression on his face gradually dissipated, replaced by a light smile in his eyes, and he ended up exclaiming, "Good!" 3 times. "Good, good, good. Taoist Qiu, you've truly taken on a fine disciple." One elder after another opened their eyes, puzzled by their sect master's reaction. Zhang Junwei wasted no words, directly using spiritual power to project the words from the letter for everyone to see. Gradually, the expressions on the elders' faces varied. Some were envious, some jealous, some stroked their beards and smiled, while others had a stern countenance. The former were mostly those on good terms with Taoist Qiu or neutral, while the latter were mainly those with a discordant relationship with him. Eventually, all eyes fell on Taoist Qiu. He even let that Qingyin fairy go, which is really unacceptable. I will have a stern talk with him when we return. Facing the gaze of many eyes, Taoist Qiu spoke with an indifferent tone, but the slight lift of his eyebrows made it hard to miss his joy. "They're putting on airs for us." One elder after another looked at Taoist Qiu without a word, knowing well that a formidable disciple had emerged from your branch. That tone was not one of blame but clearly one of boasting. Killing a Jade Sun true body was not enough. He even wanted to net Miao Yin Temple's proud disciple. Such wishful thinking. However, being able to achieve such a feat also shows that those righteous sects are not so fearsome after all. What of the Jade Sun true body? Our poisonous insects can still devour him. Taoist Cho shifted his rhetoric, then spoke from the bigger picture to boost morale. You speak truly. These righteous sects have gone too far, and this time it's a lesson for them. Zhang Junwei nodded in satisfaction and then took something out of his storage bag, saying, Taoist Chiu, your disciple's actions cannot go unrewarded. This treasure shall be given to your disciple as encouragement for him to continue striving. Our sect will not let down any of its disciples. 5 days later, in the early morning, near Insect Valley, amidst the swirling white fog, Su Jie appeared here, with several nets placed on the ground, each containing fresh human-faced moths that the thousand-hand centipede had just captured from Insect Valley, all lively and squirming. Whoosh whoosh. The sky was filled with the sound of whooshing as the thousand-hand centipede rapidly descended from mid-air, its belly's pale corpse hands clutching the special trait nets, each full of newly captured human-faced moths, furiously gnashing their teeth and spitting acid. Eat up! Su Jie patted the shell of the thousand-hand centipede, which had been gnawed pitifully by the human-faced moths, and reluctantly took out a low-grade poisonous insect from the insect control bag to feed the centipede. The thousand-hand centipede immediately opened its mouth and bit into the poisonous insect, chewing it thoroughly without waiting for it to struggle, savoring its meal. After polishing off its meal, the thousand-hand centipede, following Su Jie's command, soared into the sky once more and entered the human-faced moth's territory to continue collecting and capturing them. Su Jie then started to practice the body worm focusing method, transforming these wild human-faced moths into his own caged insects. This operation was something Su Jie did smoothly, and soon the human-faced moths recognized him as the insect king. He removed the nets, and one by one, the human-faced moths took flight, intimately circling around Su Jie. This work had been ongoing for several days. After returning to the mountain gate to recuperate from the forest, Su Jie came to Insect Valley to collect insects. By now, the number of human-faced moths in Su Jie's insect control bag had just exceeded 200,000. The spiritual power of the purple cloud thunder body was incredibly abundant. Thus the number of human-faced moths under Su Jie's control also greatly increased. However, the current human-faced moths were only numerous in quantity, as the low-grade and mid-grade human-faced moths had almost all perished. In the battle with Du Xiaochang, these leaders charged to the front, so their losses were the greatest. Therefore, although the number of insect cloud increased, the actual combat power had decreased significantly. Su Jie needed to return to the insect breeding base to properly cultivate them and evolve some low-grade and mid-grade human-faced moths to recover their strong combat strength. Moreover, the losses Su Jie suffered from that great battle were not limited to this. Now, his sword Nourishing Gourd, including the Whitebone Sky-Slaying Sword, contained only a handful of flying swords left, and the number of Yin souls in the Soul Summoning Banner had sharply decreased from over 10,000 to just 4,000. One could say that although Su Jie won the battle with Du Xiaochang, the price he paid was extremely heavy, significantly depleting his assets. Even though he retrieved 20,000 low-grade spirit stones from Du Xiaochang, after converting the real value, Su Jie might still be at a loss, as after all, these poisonous insects and Yin souls are not easily replenished in Tianyuan world. Even something like flying swords was hard to resupply because Ghost Ridge Palace was caught in a sect war and the black market was at a standstill, with all sorts of supplies already sold out. Even if there were still goods, the prices had skyrocketed, making it difficult for Su Jie to replenish his flying swords. While Su Jie was busy refining insects, some movement occurred nearby, a graceful figure leaping between ancient trees, and then Ning Xinyue appeared beside Su Jie. Hey Su Jie, how long are you planning to catch these? Surely a few human-faced moths is enough. Ning Xinyue passed through the insect cloud made up of human-faced moths. Having dealt with Su Jie for a long time, she had become quite immune to these insects. Su Jie, with a flat expression, said, You don't realize how expensive firewood and rice are until you run a household. I lost so many human-faced moths in the last battle. If I don't replenish them, will you compensate for my decrease in strength? Your strength decreasing has nothing to do with me. Find Du Xiaochang if you need to find someone. So what brings you to me? Su Jie asked, getting to the heart of the matter. This maid Ning hardly ever appeared without a reason, and he was curious about what she was busying herself with. I want to talk to you. There's something I need to discuss. Ning Xinyue suddenly began to speak hesitantly. What's the matter? This isn't like you. Just spit it out. Su Jie glanced at Ning Xinyue and stopped the insect refining he was doing. How is that holy lotus of yours doing? Ning Xinyue hesitated for a moment, her voice carrying a hint of nervousness. Su Jie was taken aback and looked at Ning Xinyue with suspicion, saying solemnly, What now? You're thinking of targeting my holy lotus again? I want to borrow it for a few hours for my practice. I'm cultivating a secret technique called 100 Treasures Divine Light, which allows me to use the special spiritual charm of various treasures to confirm my own way and thereby improve my cultivation and combat abilities. The stronger the treasure, the better the effect. Ning Xinyue was a bit embarrassed. With her pride, it was the first time she had asked someone to borrow something. Okay. Su Jie agreed without a second thought. Ning Xinyue had been expecting some kind of entanglement, or even an outright refusal from Su Jie, but she didn't expect him to agree so readily. I said you could borrow it, but you have to use it in front of me. Su Jie turned his head to look at Ning Xinyue, who looked puzzled, and laughed. What are you thinking? We're friends, aren't we? I can definitely help with such a small request. Ning Xinyue stared at Su Jie, as if seeing him for the first time. Friends, huh? Ning Xinyue looked somewhat delighted, but then she seemed to recall something, blurting out subconsciously. You're suddenly being so nice to me. You don't have some kind of sinister plot, do you? Me have a sinister plot? As a favor to a friend, how about giving you a 20% discount and just charging you 100 mid-grade spirit stones? Su Jie smiled and finished his sentence. In an instant, Ning Xinyue's facial expression fell. Is this how you treat your friends? Ning Xinyue's bright eyes were wide with disbelief. You've got to understand. Maid Ning, this is an exotic treasure. Me being willing to let you borrow it is already incredibly generous. For an ordinary person, whether it be 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones, I wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Su Jie asserted confidently, not even having asked Ning Xinyue for extra money. You're just dying for money. Ning Xinyue felt an itching hatred. That bastard, and to think she had actually been moved for a second just now. She had clearly overestimated him. If you don't want to make the exchange, then give me the secret technique, this 100 Treasures Divine Light you're talking about, and I can consider charging you less. Humph, even if I taught you, you wouldn't be able to learn it. This cultivation technique can only be initiated under specific conditions. Then pay up honestly. Su Jie flicked the young girl's forehead, laughing. You're getting a bargain at this price. It's your own fault for not seizing the opportunity earlier or for not taking the chance to kill me while we were together outside participating in the sect conflicts and then taking this holy lotus exotic treasure for yourself. I wouldn't be that wicked. Ning Xinyue was first taken aback. Her pretty face flushed red as she glared at Su Jie, huffing angrily. So opportunities should be cherished. Su Jie took out the 9-grade sacred lotus and extended his hand toward Ning Xinyue. Would 50 spirit stones work? Ning Xinyue wanted to haggle, indicating that the price was too high. Exotic treasures are priceless. Just say whether you want to borrow it or not. Su Jie's tone was firm, and since Ning Xinyue was quite the little rich girl, he felt completely at ease overcharging her. Who knew when he'd get the chance to take advantage of her again? 60. 100. 75 at most. Say another word and I won't lend it. You're ruthless. Seeing that Su Jie's attitude showed absolutely no sign of relenting, Ning Xinyue had no choice but to take out 100 mid-grade spirit stones and hand them over to Su Jie, getting extorted once again. Su Jie was satisfied as he accepted the spirit stones and handed the 9-grade sacred lotus sapling over to Ning Xinyue. In just a few hours, he made what amounted to tens of thousands of low-grade spirit stones. Money was just too easy to earn. The 9-grade sacred lotus was planted in the 5-element spiritual soil inside the glazed bottle. It had grown taller than when Su Jie first got it, with 2 leaves sprouting and a new one emerging. Ning Xinyue's eyes sparkled when she saw the 9-grade sacred lotus. The heartache of spending 100 mid-grade spirit stones was quickly forgotten, and she sat down joyfully on the ground, her fingertips touching the tiny leaves of the sacred lotus. The next moment, spiritual power surged within Ning Xinyue like a tide, and her luminous skin shone with treasure light, dazzling and magical. Changes also occurred on the 9-grade sacred lotus. The sapling's leaves shimmered with treasure light, and both seemed to be engaged in some kind of mysterious causative connection. Gradually, a tiny 9-grade sacred lotus phantom appeared behind Ning Xinyue. Beyond the sacred lotus phantom, Su Jie saw several other unique treasure shadows, each extraordinary in its own way. Suddenly, a strange fluctuation burst forth from within Ning Xinyue. A rainbow bridge spanned between Ning Xinyue and the 9-grade sacred lotus, and waves of powerful magical force brewed constantly, with the mysterious aura on Ning Xinyue climbing higher and higher. It was as if she had broken through some shackles. In an instant, her delicate body glowed brightly, wrapped in bands of purple mist divine light, looking like the most dazzling gem between heaven and earth, its beautiful colors unforgettable at a glance. This is a breakthrough. Su Jie sensed the change in Ning Xinyue and could not help but twitch the corners of his mouth. It's not that he didn't wish for Ning Xinyue to break through, but rather he felt that he had charged too little for the spirit stones. If he had known the 9-grade sacred lotus would enable her to make a breakthrough in her cultivation, he would have been even tougher in his price, guessing she would have agreed. But it was too late for any regrets now. Su Jie could only watch as Ning Xinyue's spiritual power soared. After crossing a certain threshold, powerful spiritual power burst forth from within her, entering a new realm. An hour later, Ning Xinyue had finished her cultivation, her bright black eyes brimming with joy. Exotic treasures are indeed powerful. Ning Xinyue happily returned the 9-grade sacred lotus. Her current cultivation was indeterminable because, as someone with a Xianyin body, her spiritual power far exceeded that of a cultivator of the same level. The normal way of estimating was completely inaccurate. TCH, I've taken a huge loss. Maid Ning, do you still need the sacred lotus? I could lend it to you again, for a cheaper price this time. Su Jie sighed, feeling like he had lost $1 billion. Ning Xinyue made a playful face and proudly said, "Still trying to extort me? The 100 treasures divine light secret technique can only be used once on each type of treasure, so don't think about extorting me again." Well, 100 spirit stones isn't too bad. Su Jie consoled himself in his heart, took back the 9-grade sacred lotus, and called back the 1,000-handed centipede. "You're not catching bugs anymore? I'm in a bad mood, and it's just about mealtime. I'll head back to eat and soothe my feelings." Su Jie mounted the 1,000-handed centipede. Ning Xinyue was teased into laughter, her whole body trembling with merriment, and seeing Su Jie deflated brought her even greater joy. However, as she laughed, Ning Xinyue soon found herself unable to continue laughing. "Hey Su Jie, wait for me. I want to ride too. I thought you detested bugs, so use your legs and walk back yourself. Jerk. It's so far. I don't want to run anymore. Just stop for me." Oh, in front of Ghost Ridge Palace's mountain gate. The 1,000-hand centipede landed, and Su Jie and Ning Xinyue got off. After all, Su Jie had relented and given Ning Xinyue a lift.
Brother Su. Brother Su.
Brother Su. Upon seeing Su Jie, each disciple greeted him with a bow, his or her eyes filled with more than a little respect and admiration. Ever since he had killed Du Xiaochong, Su Jie's status within Ghost Ridge Palace had soared, elevating him to a position second only to the elders. "Who's that woman? Seems like she's called Zhu Qingya or something. Heard she's a genius. I think she's just a vixen, flaunting her beauty and sticking to Brother Su." So Brother Su likes the youthful type, huh? Maybe I should also try a change of style. Besides the greetings, some disciples began gossiping out of curiosity. There were discussions about who between Su Jie and Xiao Fengyuan was more powerful, as well as speculations about when Su Jie would break through to the secret realm. Since Ning Xinyue was accompanying Su Jie, a man and woman riding together, naturally there was no shortage of gossip about her as well. These disciples thought they could keep it from Ning Xinyue, not knowing she was very strong, keen of hearing and sharp-eyed, and she heard all their gossip. Keep talking nonsense, and see if I don't tear your mouths apart. Angered, Ning Xinyue lashed out at a few disciples with foul comments with a palm strike. Boom! Pure and powerful spiritual power erupted, knocking those disciples to the ground. With just her spiritual power, she silenced the gossiping disciples. A few members of the law enforcement team glanced over, but seeing Su Jie standing nearby, they hesitated, withdrew their steps, and didn't come over to intervene. At this critical juncture of strife within the sect had heavy punishments for conflicts among disciples, all in the effort to minimize infighting and focus their energies on fighting external enemies. However, with Su Jie standing by Ning Xinyue's side, even the members of the law enforcement team lost their nerve, afraid of offending Su Jie, the man of the hour. If you talk nonsense again in the future, it won't be a simple lesson like this one. Ning Xinyue withdrew her palm, pretending to be fierce as she scared the gossiping disciples into scrambling away. Humph! What are you laughing at? Ning Xinyue shifted her gaze back to notice Su Jie's smiling face. Maid Ning, give me a smile, and there's a reward for you, Su Jie teased, playfully tormenting the young maid. Little Jie, what nonsense are you talking about? Do you really think I'm a fox spirit that wants to seduce you? What would I gain from that? I'm richer than you are, Ning Xinyue countered, hands on her hips and chin up in pride, saying, moreover, I was born with a natural grace, and in the future, I'm destined to become immortal and sit with the founders. How could I possibly fancy a lowly demon cultivator like you? Su Jie rolled his eyes, speechless, and said, I can see now you're quite full of yourself, aren't you? I do as I say, you just wait and see. Yes, yes, I'll live for 1,000, 10,000 years, just waiting for that day to see you ascend to immortality, Su Jie said sarcastically. Brother Su, Masters War invites you. After parting with Ning Xinyue, Su Jie had just returned to his own residence when he saw a disciple come over to relay a message. Originally planning to have lunch, Su Jie could only pat his belly and proceeded to the room on the second floor of Command Hall to meet Swashiping. Su Jie, take a seat. Swashiping was hunched over a table, a map of Ghost Ridge Palace spread out before him. He busily scribbled and sketched on it, apparently working on some tactical arrangements for the defensive teams. Master Zhua, is there something you need me for? Are you sending me out to defend against enemies? Su Jie found a chair and sat down, unclear on the purpose behind Swashiping's summons. Logically speaking, because he had been injured during his last fight with Du Xiaochang, Swashiping had personally granted him a week off, and it wasn't yet time for him to head out again. There's a piece of bad news and a piece of good news. Which one would you like to hear first? Swashiping looked up and teased with a smile on his face. Su Jie shrugged and said with a laugh, Then I'll hear the bad one first. When I eat, I like to save my favorite dishes for last. The bad news is you've become famous. And not just within Ghost Ridge Palace, but in the righteous circles as well, Swashiping said as he passed a paper over. Upon receiving it, Su Jie saw his own portrait drawn on it with a line of text below. Red level wanted order. Criminal Su Jie, a demon cultivator of Ghost Ridge Palace, about 8 feet tall, in his early 20s, skilled in insect control, soul driving, and flying sword, possessing a mid-grade 4 refinement poisonous insect. The individual is cold-blooded and heartless, sly and crafty, fond of extracting living souls and feeding live people to insects, has committed numerous heinous and blood-soaked crimes, and is an extremely vicious and dangerous demon cultivator. Guanchao Pavilion is issuing a red-level wanted order, calling upon all heroes of justice to actively provide clues and assist in the capture of this demon cultivator. For those who provide important information and participate meritoriously, a reward of 10,000 low-grade spirit stones will be given. If one successfully kills or apprehends and delivers him to Guanchao Pavilion, a reward of 100,000 low-grade spirit stones will be issued. In the wanted poster, Su Jie was portrayed as extremely bloodthirsty and cruel, and the portrait featured an eerily menacing smile that immediately associated him with evil, terror, brutality, and homicide. Zhuo Shiping tapped his index finger on the table and chuckled. What do you think after seeing this? Such treatment isn't something ordinary demon cultivators get to enjoy. Who drew this? They've made me look too sinister, and I'm not as bad as the wanted poster says, Su Jie complained while touching his own cheek, criticizing the righteous sects for their lack of propriety. Aren't you surprised? Zhuo Shiping asked in astonishment. Su Jie's reaction was much too calm. When I killed Du Xiaochang, I had anticipated that this day would come. After all, he proclaimed himself a disciple of Zhuang Liangru.
So yes, Rugget.
After his joke, his expression turned less spirited as he said with a bitter smile, I just didn't expect them to issue a red-level wanted order with 100,000 spirit stones as a bounty. That's how much they hate me. In the cultivation world, righteous sects issue wanted orders against traders, demon cultivators, loose cultivators, etc., with varying levels of threat determining the nature of the order. Generally, a red-level wanted order is associated with criminals of secret realm level. For someone in the Yunling realm like Su Jie to be featured is quite a rare occurrence. To be honest, with that price, I'm even considering catching myself to claim the reward. 100,000 spirit stones is really quite a high valuation. Considering Du Xiaochang's reputation in Qingzhou, a bounty of 100,000 spirit stones and a red-level wanted order is a bit excessive, but still reasonable. Think about it, with that face of yours from now on, whoever sees you will have to show you some respect. Zhuo Shiping comforted Su Jie at this moment, but Su Jie always felt that there was something odd about his reassurance. Those righteous disciples stimulated by the bounty reward now look at me like I'm a prized trophy. If my identity is exposed, I'll immediately be besieged by a large number of them. Stay inside the mountain gate for now. Those righteous sects might have sent specialized teams to assassinate you, or even secret realm elders to infiltrate and come for you. Let's wait until this storm blows over. Su Jie heaved a sigh of relief. Walking out now with a bounty of 100,000 spirit stones on his head was truly too much pressure. Elder Zhuo, may I know what the good news is? You're worried about these things because you're not strong enough, and the good news is related to that, Elder Zhuo said, pulling something out of his storage bag. It was a fist-sized object, pitch black with carbonized cracks on its surface, resembling a burnt sweet potato. What is this? Su Jie curiously examined the item, unable to understand what it was. The sect master has heard of your deeds and specifically rewarded you with heavenly poison treasure wood tree fruit, Zhuo Shiping said, solemnly handing it over to Su Jie. A reward from the sect master. Su Jie was initially stunned. Although he still didn't understand what the object was, he quickly reached out with both hands to accept it. This fruit is from a spirit plant called Heavenly Poison Treasure Wood that grows in the core area of Insect Valley. It comes to maturity only once every 100 years and is the most beloved by countless poisonous insects. Just because after a poisonous insect consumes it for the first time, it will be able to master an additional new ability after its spirit refining breakthrough. In other words, it can achieve 2 abilities with 1 round of spirit refining. As Zhuo Shiping explained the workings of the Heavenly Poison Treasure Wood Tree Fruit, Su Jie immediately became excited. There's such a treasure in the world? Su Jie held the Heavenly Poison Treasure Wood Tree Fruit in his hands. What he had originally considered ordinary now seemed more precious than spirit stones. To know that a poisonous insect gaining a new ability could only happen through spirit refining. Even as a poisonous insect advanced from low grade to middle grade, or from middle grade to top grade, it would only enhance its existing abilities, not bestow new capabilities. One might say that the appearance of the Heavenly Poison Treasure Wood Tree Fruit was akin to offering a free round of spirit refining for the poisonous insect. This item is extremely rare, Every time we collect it, we have to gather the power of the sect elders to break through the blockade and scrambling of infectious insects to get it. Generally speaking, it's only given to disciples after they break through to the secret realm by order of the sect master. This time the sect master has heard you possess a mid-grade 4 refinement poisonous insect, so he has given it to you in advance, hoping it will encourage you to move forward and break through to the secret realm as soon as possible, said Zhuoshiping, stroking his beard with a chuckle as he relayed the story. The sect master's great kindness will never be forgotten, disciple. I will take down more enemies in the future to let those hypocritical righteous pretenders know. One must not insult a demon, and anyone who offends Ghost Ridge Palace will be punished, no matter how far they flee, Sujie declared, pounding his chest with determination, ready to take risks for this reward. It was just a bounty of 100,000 spirit stones. Once the 1,000-handed centipede completed its next spirit refining and gained 2 new abilities, it wasn't certain who would kill whom. Well said, as demon cultivators, we should have this spirit. If the other disciples all thought like you, we as elders would have such an easier time. Zhuoshiping replied with a warm smile, his look upon Sujie growing even more gentle. Truly a seedling valued by the sect master, with such high awareness. After saying goodbye to Zhuoshiping, Sujie returned to his own mansion and released the 1,000-handed centipede. The moment it emerged, the 1,000-handed centipede sensed something and immediately turned its insect eyes towards the heavenly poison treasure wood tree fruit that Sujie held in his left hand. ZZZ. In the next second, the 1,000-handed centipede excitedly stood upright, all its corpse hands waving, clinging tightly to Sujie's arm, its open mouth fixated on the heavenly poison treasure wood tree fruit. Were it not for the lack of an order from Sujie, it would have already pounced to snatch the fruit and feast on it. Meanwhile, perhaps due to the presence of the poisonous insect, the heavenly poison treasure wood tree fruit underwent a change. The outer peel automatically shed, revealing the true core inside. Glorious radiance blossomed as the dense mesh of patterns on the core, resembling contorted insects, appeared to be crawling. Eat it. This is what I've prepared for you, Sujie said. With a loosened hand, Sujie dropped the heavenly poison treasure wood tree fruit into the gaping mouth of the 1,000-handed centipede. The 1,000-handed centipede didn't even chew, swallowing the heavenly poison treasure wood tree fruit whole. As the heavenly poison treasure wood tree fruit was ingested, layers of dark golden light illuminated the abdomen of the 1,000-handed centipede. Its insect shell grew increasingly glossy and shiny, and although its body size didn't expand, there were lines resembling insect veins spreading across the shell, like an innate ancient scripture, primitive and profound, mysterious and unfathomable. Under its influence, the gleam of sentience in the eyes of the 1,000-handed centipede grew more pronounced than before. Shao Qian. Whether I can continue to enjoy life's luxuries depends on you, so you better advance sooner rather than later, Sujie said, touching the 1,000-handed centipede's head, full of expectation and eagerness. Thinking all this, Sujie took out the ancient mirror, opened the teleportation gate and stepped through. Oh, Blue Star Zen Country. In the underground poisonous insects cultivation base of Fumin Breeding Farm, with Sujie's return, each of the poisonous insects there sensed the arrival of the 1,000-handed centipede, and they scurried about in a panic, trying to flee from this dangerous fellow. 1, 2. Sujie counted the inventory inside one by one. As the remittance from Tianyuan hair growth liquid came in, the breeding scale in the Mande region further expanded. The quantity of low-grade poisonous insects here also increased as a result, many of them not merely low-grade, but even having advanced to low-grade 1 refining, were not few in number. If not for the fact that Sujie had previously reinforced the formation here using quite a few array maps, they really wouldn't have been able to stop these poisonous insects from breaking out and escaping, which would have been earth-shattering news. Go ahead. These low-grade poisonous insects are all yours, Sujie said. Having been impatiently waiting for this moment, the 1,000-handed centipede immediately set off at full speed, pouncing on one low-grade poisonous insect after another, indulging in a feast, enjoying an all-you-can-eat buffet of insects. At 40 meters in size, the 1,000-handed centipede was enormously huge, and its appetite and digestive capacity were terrifying. Although there were many insects in the underground poisonous insects cultivation base, it wouldn't be enough to satisfy it for more than a few days. 3 days later, the thousand-handed centipede, having devoured all the poisonous insects, grew to a length of 45 meters. Not much longer now. I wonder what 2 new abilities will emerge when the time comes. Being a life-bound poisonous insect, Su Jie roughly estimated the time for the thousand-handed centipede's advancement in spirit refining wouldn't be far off. Given the production speed of low-grade poisonous insects here, in at most another month, the quantity of insects in this place would be enough to satisfy the thousand-handed centipede's advancement. Su Jie was now looking forward to the 5th spirit refining with immense anticipation, feeling that time was passing far too slowly. However, since he had returned, there wasn't much happening at Ghost Ridge Palace for the time being. So, Su Jie planned to stay on Blue Star for a while to see how the development of the arms and ammunition was coming along. After leaving the Fumin breeding farm, Su Jie didn't return to his private luxury estate in Monday City, but instead went to a Jekka security training base. This place was originally a base for the Monday United Army. After the collapse of the Monday United Army, it was requisitioned by Jekka Security and underwent large-scale expansion. Now, this base was the largest of Jekka Security in the Monday region, housing 8,000 members of Jekka Security. Before he even got close, the patrol sentries noticed the car driven by Su Jie. "Commander!" Upon seeing Su Jie, those soldiers who were previously on high alert immediately straightened their bodies and saluted. "Don't notify the people inside. I want to go in alone and take a look," Su Jie said as he waved his hand, showed his credentials, then changed into a military uniform and entered the military camp alone for a secret inspection of Jekka Security's training achievements. After crossing 2 more lines of defense, when Su Jie entered the base, the training inside was in full swing. Some soldiers were engaged in physical training, taking off their shirts to reveal toned bodies, working in pairs carrying wooden logs. Some soldiers were fully equipped with weapons and ammunition, carrying plenty of ammo and rations, participating in armed cross-country training. Others were traversing various obstacles, climbing walls, crossing high nets, crawling through mud under barbed wire. Some were involved in live-fire shooting training, with the sound of gunfire ringing non-stop. The instructors training these Jekka security personnel were elite soldiers retired from various countries, attracted by high salaries. Under excellent welfare and benefits, neither the instructors nor the soldiers had any complaints. The former were able to earn satisfying pay. As for the latter, the arrival of Jekka Company changed their lives, and their training was undertaken with an even more diligent spirit. After touring the training facilities, some soldiers finally noticed Su Jie, and the military camp was instantly abuzz. In the Monday region, Su Jie's reputation far exceeded that of Ghost Ridge Palace. While Ghost Ridge Palace had elders and a sect master, in the Monday region, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Su Jie was the unrivaled king. Upon receiving the news, Lu Yingying, who was working in Monday City, also hurried over. "Yingying, you've developed the troops quite well." Su Jie was the first to speak, noting that even in his absence, Lu Yingying had not neglected the development of Jekka security strength. Lu Yingying shook her head and said, "I'm only responsible for providing the funds. The training is all managed by the instructors, even the purchase of weaponry." "Take me to the armory to see what you've bought recently," Su Jie said, surrounded by soldiers. He asked them to continue their training while he, accompanied by a few officers and Lu Yingying, headed for the armory. As heavy doors were opened one after another, the cold machinery of war was revealed in Su Jie's view. Main battle tanks, armed helicopters, infantry fighting vehicles, military trucks, combat engineering vehicles, grenade launchers, mortars, and self-propelled anti-aircraft guns lay quietly on high-strength reinforced concrete floors, exuding a deadly threat that only human beings from Blue Star could understand. Apart from these war vehicles and artillery, there was an even greater number of light weapons. Rifles, especially the cheap and abundant AKs, numbered over 100,000 alone, with rocket launchers, machine guns, landmines, and the like in abundance. In another section of the warehouse was the ammunition depot, with shells of various calibers stored upright, almost too many to see the end at a glance. Modern warfare is a matter of logistics, so it was natural to have a surplus of weaponry and ammunition. Judging from the stock in the armory, even if a war involving tens of thousands erupted and persisted for years, these supplies would be sufficient to endure. Su Jie looked at these weapons and equipment. There was nothing much to say about the light weapons. The heavy vehicles were basically somewhat outdated models or the cheaper monkey versions. However, for Chan country, they were still considered top-notch equipment. According to the plan, we have currently established Jekka Security 1st Brigade and 2nd Brigade. The former is a heavy synthetic brigade with a strength of 6,000, and the latter is a mountain brigade with a strength of 9,000, totaling 15,000. Most of them are newly recruited soldiers with short training time. Considering the population in the Mande region, if we need to conscript more, the local young and able-bodied could provide an additional 20 to 30,000. However, that would affect production. Although Lu Yingying had no understanding of military affairs, she had been studying hard during this period and had learned quite a bit of related knowledge. The number of troops is sufficient. The rest of the able-bodied can spare time to participate in militia training. We will be responsible for the costs of meals and ammunition during training and provide some subsidies. I think everyone would be quite willing. Su Jie was satisfied with this number of troops. Chan country was often in turmoil, so the people here were naturally fierce and highly identified with the idea of joining the army and facing the sharp edge of a knife. With the lucrative offerings at Jekka Security, once the news of recruitment was released, it was easy to gather the required number of people. In the Mande region, with a population of 7 to 800,000, 15,000 professional soldiers was not too heavy a military burden, roughly equivalent to drafting 1 out of every 50 men. In comparison, North Korea, with a population of 25 million, had an army of 120 to 30,000, several hundred thousand reservists, and several million paramilitary personnel. By comparison, Su Jie's strategy was restrained and not excessively militaristic. With so many newly recruited soldiers, what is their combat effectiveness like? Su Jie continued to inquire, as it concerned his next moves. Lu Yingying felt a bit troubled and could only look towards a few officers nearby. An officer stood up and explained, "Chief Su, the new recruits are quite proficient with firearm usage and they are quick learners. However, because most soldiers haven't had much education, their efficiency in learning how to operate mechanical vehicles and artillery shooting is low. We can only compensate for this by increasing live-fire training and night classes to teach academic knowledge, and it will take time to integrate fully. Therefore, the Mountain Brigade, which is mainly light infantry, has basically been formed. The Synthetic Brigade, with up to 100 tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, artillery, etc., is expected to need a long period of intensive training to maintain sufficient combat effectiveness. Command is also a weak point. Our instructors can handle the general direction of command, but at the lower basic level of squads and platoons, etc., the level of battle command and coordination are relatively limited and lack experienced and committed veterans." The officer said a lot in one breath. These were the pain points he saw, and he added, "Fortunately, due to Chan country's local mountainous and dense forest environment, it isn't very suitable for armored unit activities. Our training usually focuses on guerrilla and mountain warfare. The experience and skills required for conventional warfare are still lacking, and these are things that take many years to learn." Hearing this, Su Jie smiled and shook his head, then asked the blonde, blue-eyed foreign officer, "What's your name?" "Valenkin, Russian." The officer straightened his chest and reported his name loudly. "Do you know what enemy we are preparing to face?" Su Jie continued, as purchasing so much military equipment certainly was not just for show, but for a future conflict. The surrounding other warlords? Valenkin thought about it and realized there probably was no other answer. "Do you think the level of those warlord soldiers is higher than your country's professional soldiers? If they fight while our level is terrible, theirs isn't much better," Su Jie said. Su Jie mentioned this not because he disregarded human life and planned to use untrained soldiers as cannon fodder on the battlefield. It was truly because the warlord side was even more terrible than Jekka Security. Su Jie, after all, had hired foreign retired officers to oversee the training, and he had provided ample equipment. The warlords were not so generous. Many warlords squandered money on themselves, and the quality of the armed forces was difficult to describe. If the warlord factions were to battle each other, it would be a competition of who performed worse. Valenkin was at a loss for words, because what Su Jie said was entirely accurate. Given the level of those warlords, it wasn't about looking down on the opponent. They were not devoid of military competence. They were quite good at guerrilla warfare, which is low-intensity combat. In a high-intensity conventional battlefield, the opponent didn't have much training in such tactics, and the heavy firepower armored forces might not have a chance to be effective. So, you see, we need not belittle ourselves, Su Jie said. Seeing that Valenkin understood his point, Su Jie nodded in satisfaction. It was merely a skirmish of the inept, and Su Jie planned to lend a hand and thus tilt the scales. The odds were quite in his favor. After visiting the arsenal as the day turned dark, Su Jie and Lu Yingying had dinner with many common soldiers in the military canteen, and then they drove back to their private estate in Monde City. Oh! How are the sales of Tianyuan hair growth liquid? And how much money is currently in the account? On the villa's sofa, Su Jie inquired about the Tianyuan hair growth liquid with Lu Yingying. He had been in Tianyuan world for nearly 2 months, and even before his departure, Tianyuan hair growth liquid had been a hot seller in various countries of Blue Star, definitely drawing in a substantial amount of funds. Currently, our Tianyuan hair growth liquid sells over 120 million bottles per month in Hua country, with monthly revenue of about 12 billion Hua yuan. The international launch was a bit delayed, with current sales of 70 million bottles per month in various countries. Each bottle of Tianyuan hair growth liquid is sold for $159 in the market. We offer a cheaper wholesale cost to distributors, but the high price reduces the number of buyers, bringing in about $8 billion each month. And sales of Tianyuan hair growth liquid are still slowly growing. With our expansion into some potential user markets, monthly revenues are expected to break through 120 to 125 billion dollars, easily exceeding $1 trillion annually. Yingying explained, her interest peaked when talking about business, much more enthused than discussing armaments, endlessly detailing the brilliant performance of Tianyuan hair growth liquid. With our products selling so well overseas, the existing products for hair treatment and the hair transplantation market must have been disrupted, right? Su Jie had prepared himself for this, and the figures were close to his estimates. The global market for hair transplants, hair loss, wigs, and hair care products already involved several billions of dollars. By monopolizing the old market and exploiting the remarkable efficacy to penetrate new markets, turning some of the incurable hair loss populations into its own customers, Tianyuan hair growth liquid had achieved such massive revenues. Yes, compared to medications that are dubious and slow to show effects, as well as hair transplantation surgeries that rob Peter to pay Paul without guaranteeing survival of the hair follicles, our Tianyuan hair growth liquid is simple, fast, and less expensive, devastating a host of overseas products, causing many related businesses in Europe and America to go bankrupt, with the market essentially dominated by our Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Yingying spoke, her face radiant with pride, controlling a business artifact like Tianyuan hair growth liquid, wielding over billions of dollars in capital, and being extremely energized every day, almost getting too delighted to think of anything else. After understanding the Tianyuan hair growth liquid, Su Jie finally asked the question he was most concerned about. How is the investigation of the nearby warlords going? Have they made any strange moves? Lu Yingying took out a document and said, starting a month ago, 3 warlords from East Qin State, Guominding, Ong Yuluan, and Suamin Tun, successively increased their military forces to a certain extent and have had large quantities of arms supplied through external channels, the amounts of which are quite astonishing. Su Jie frowned and looked at the information Lu Yingying handed over. The document detailed the statistics on several warlords. Among the 3, the warlord with the largest population and territory was Guominding, with a soldier count reaching 18,000, even more than Jekka Securities forces. Comparing the military strength of the 3 warlords, they had a total shocking number of 35,000 soldiers. Besides these military numbers, there were also maps of various military camps and defensive fortifications, as well as photos of the arms purchases. Transporting large-caliber weapons like tanks in a place like Chan country is very difficult to conduct in secret. It seems they've made up their minds, spending such massive amounts of money in a rush, eager to devour our interests, Su Jie remarked. Su Jie tapped his fingers lightly on the table. With such grand actions from these warlords, if it's said to be a reflex to Jekka Security's own military expansion, in an arms race they might recruit a lot of soldiers, but as for those heavy equipment and weaponry, Su Jie had only managed to build such an arsenal through aggressive profiteering with Tianyuan hair growth liquid. These local emperors of their own small territories simply couldn't afford to buy so many complete armored units. The entire Chan country's military didn't even consist of more than a few hundred armored units. It was impossible for a single warlord to have such financial strength, unless there was external funding involved. Without any precious mines, such as those for oil, iron, or natural gas in the vicinity, investing so much money to support these warlord forces made the target quite obvious. Aster Pharmaceutical, one of the Fortune 500 multinational pharmaceutical companies, has always been coveting the Tianyuan hair growth liquid, or more accurately, the Averson family that controls Aster Pharmaceutical has been greedy for the profits from the Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Before Tianyuan hair growth liquid hit the market, they owned the biggest market share in the hair loss medication sector. Now, with Tianyuan hair growth liquid's impact, related products worldwide have been suffering defeats, causing significant losses to this renowned pharmaceutical company, which in turn set its sights on the lucrative Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Previously, they had dispatched mercenaries to attack in an attempt to seize the formula for Tianyuan hair growth liquid. After failing, it seems they planned to settle the issue with military force, which is consistent with the Anglo-Saxons' customary way of conducting affairs. Keep a close eye on the situation with Guominding and the other two warlords. Inform me immediately of any troop movements. Also, have Jekka Security proceed with offensive drills and to draft war plans, Su Jie instructed. Su Jie was accustomed to holding the initiative. Rather than waiting for others to adjust and attack, it's better to strike first. After all, war is a completely different beast when it breaks out on foreign soil compared to one's own territory in terms of the damage inflicted. Having managed the Mande region for so long, Su Jie had no intention of reducing it to rubble and ruins. Lu Yingying felt a hint of concern and said, "We are at a disadvantage in terms of troop strength. Wouldn't it be unfavorable to start a war now?" The three warlords bordered the Mande region with a population of 2 to 3 million people in East Chin State, of which they controlled 2 million, with only 700 to 800,000 on the Mande side. No matter whether it's military strength or potential for war, the forces of the three warlords led by Guominding held the advantage. Don't be afraid, although we are not ready, neither is the enemy, and the final victor will definitely be us. Su Jie held Lu Yingying in his arms and said with a smile, "As for the issue of numbers, we can enhance our individual soldiers' combat effectiveness to compensate for the numerical difference." Feeling Su Jie's teasing hands, Lu Yingying's pretty face blushed. She suppressed her chaotic thoughts and asked, puzzled, "Soldier training needs to progress step by step. Can this be greatly improved in a short time?" "Of course not by ordinary methods, but we don't take the common path. You'll know when the time comes. Actually, what I'm really worried about isn't these warlords. I'm worried about the United States intervening." Su Jie spoke calmly, pronouncing the name of Earth's #1 hegemon. Lu Yingying began to feel insecure, questioning, "The United States shouldn't personally get involved, right? After all, they are a country, and we don't have any conflicting interests with them. Don't think too highly of the United States' integrity. Now that the profits from the Tianyuan hair growth liquid are so large, hundreds of billions of dollars in net profits per year, equivalent to 1/10 of the United States' annual military expenses, it wouldn't be surprising if they were tempted." Su Jie had a look of disdain. The nature of Americans as troublemakers is well known, having inherited the fine traditions of the British Empire. Wherever there is war, they are sure to be found. Look at the turmoil in the Middle East. Oil brings profits, so the region can't escape the shadow of the United States. Jekka Company has considerable interests here as well. Naturally, it will attract wolves. Especially since this time, the opposition to Jekka Security includes Aster Pharmaceutical, a true blue American company. With the lobbying capabilities of those interest groups, it's hard to say whether they might intervene or not. Unless there's a major country to act as a shield, it's not easy to stay stable. Actually, Su Jie could also move all his businesses back to Hua country. But compared to being constrained everywhere, Su Jie preferred freedom. Many things can only be effectively managed on one's own territory. Otherwise, places like the Fumin breeding farm's underground poisonous insect breeding base would be difficult for Su Jie to establish. Even later, as profits grow larger, not knowing how to share the wealth will make it difficult to function in any country. So Su Jie had more faith in his own strength. The fist is the authority. Every relied-upon power may collapse, so it's better to be self-reliant. It may be tougher, but it leads to a more comfortable and free life. So, are we still going to war? Lu Yingying was somewhat confused by Su Jie's words. Thinking about the possibility of conflict with the United States, the top military power of Blue Star, she couldn't help feeling tense. The fight must definitely happen, Su Jie said. Better to land a punch now than take 100 later. We can't be indecisive because we're worried about intervention from the United States. When facing hungry wolves and other wild beasts, feeding them pieces of your flesh will only make them greedier. You must pick up the stick and the gun to make them back down and bare their teeth less. Su Jie's expression was icy, not showing a shred of weakness. If he failed, at worst he could hide in Tianyuan world for a while before making a comeback. Su Jie had the confidence for that. Lu Yingying, looking up at Su Jie's resolute face, her eyes filled with admiration, couldn't help but wrap her arms around his neck proactively. Feeling the gradually rising temperature of the soft body in his arms, her flushed cheeks, Su Jie immediately understood Lu Yingying's intentions. He smiled, picked her up around the waist, and walked with big steps toward the bedroom. Hua country, Mu Hua Company's primary pig farming base. Su Jie appeared here to inspect, with Liang Lianjuan and several other heads of Mu Hua Company by his side. After spending a few days in Chan country, Su Jie had returned to Hua country because his 10,000 soul banners Yin Soul had suffered significant losses, and it was time to replenish them. Not bad. It seems you've developed the company quite well. After inspecting the area, Su Jie exclaimed reflectively. Here, compared to Su Jie's last visit, the number of pigs being raised was noticeably higher, and a simple sensing revealed that the slaughterhouse stored numerous soul-summoning banners, rich in Yin Soul reserves. The feeling of being wealthy was great. Without doing anything, there was a continuous supply of Yin Souls to acquire. The professional manager of Mu Hua Company explained, "We owe a lot to the financial support from Tianyuan Daily and Tianyuan Home. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to develop so rapidly." Liang Lianjuan chuckled bitterly. The funds provided by Tianyuan Home are limited. Most of it relies on Tianyuan Daily. In the past, Tianyuan Home supported the development of Chan Country's Monde region and the acquisition of Mu Hua Company, always acting as the money bag. However, after the launch of Tianyuan Hair Growth Liquid, the chief financial support shifted to Tianyuan Daily Company, leaving Tianyuan Home in second place. Although Tianyuan Home still actively sold high-end furniture every month, compared to the profits from the hair growth liquid, it was entirely negligible due to the vast difference in market scale. Su Jie continued to ask, "Tell me about the current situation at Mu Hua Company. Nowadays, our pig farming is booming immensely. After acquiring Ikong Company's equipment and skilled workers, the number of pigs has already exceeded 9 million, but many are still piglets and will need time to grow. In addition, according to your plans, Mr. Su, more factories are continuously being built, and workers are constantly being recruited and trained. Through purchasing piglets from other companies and breeding our own sows, we hope to boost the pig count to 30 million by the end of the year. It's just that due to unskilled workers, high costs of purchased piglets, and the current downward phase of the pig market cycle, the more pigs we raise, the more profit we lose." As the person in charge spoke, he carefully watched Su Jie's expression. Most bosses, when hearing about companies' profit losses, would not show a good face to these professional managers. "Don't worry, keep expanding production. I can afford this little loss." Su Jie waved his hand, now financially robust. With Tianyuan hair growth liquid backing him, a slight financial loss was completely negligible. What Su Jie cared about was the quantity of yin souls. As long as that was sufficient, everything else was negotiable. Saying this, Su Jie looked at the altars and statues placed within the farming and slaughtering area. Right, these statues have been here for 2 or 3 months now. Have them removed. I've got a new batch of statues coming in, which will better maintain the effects of exorcising evil and pacifying souls. Su Jie instructed, causing several people present to be taken aback, not understanding what the issue was, as it was unusual for statues to be replaced every few months. However, seeing Su Jie's expression, they dared not ask further and could only nod in agreement. After all, if the boss was wealthy enough to be whimsical, they might as well comply with his wishes. Under Su Jie's command, in the following days, workers moved the altars and statues from the slaughterhouse, replacing them with new ones. The employees in the slaughterhouse were confused about why the perfectly good statues needed replacing. However, as Mu Hua Company announced another raise, rewarding them for outstanding performance in pig farming, no one discussed the matter anymore. Everyone cheered happily, expressing profound gratitude to their generous new boss. And similar events occurred not only in this farm but in every Mu Hua farming facility. Linping City, Jingjiang No. 1 Villa Basement. Su Jie sat cross-legged on the cushion, surrounded by purple cloud, divine thunder flickering and white cranes soaring with continuous mystical phenomena. Phew! Above his head, Su Jie's divine soul detached from his physical body. The tiny figure resembled a halo of cloud mist, its body radiating brilliant divine light, complete with arms and legs. On its face, the previously indistinct features had now formed a mouth. Shao Qian. Su Jie's divine sense swept over, and the soul's mouth moved slightly, seemingly without making any sound. Yet the thousand-hand centipede dozing in Su Jie's sleeve heard it and immediately crawled out. Sizzle. Looking at the closed-eyed, meditating physical body, the thousand-hand centipede was somewhat puzzled because it had indeed heard Su Jie calling it. In the end, the thousand-hand centipede raised its head and looked at Su Jie's divine soul. The small divine soul intrigued it, sensing its master's soul presence but looking different from the master, with only a mouth. What was that about? Su Jie slightly smiled, his divine sense spreading like water, transferring the surrounding scenes one by one into the divine soul in a 3-dimensional form. Aunt Chun, I'd like sweet and sour fish tonight. Transmitting via divine sense, a chef napping in the villa suddenly woke up, looked around instinctively, but saw no one. Am I dreaming of work? It's not even dinner time yet. Aunt Chun murmured and lay down again to continue her nap. Done. Seeing this reaction, Su Jie knew his divine sense transmission had succeeded. Now his divine soul was becoming more perfect, already mastering soul transmission, and once all his facial features were formed, that would be the day his divine soul evolved into his primordial spirit. Su Jie felt he could complete it before advancing to the secret realm. After testing his newly acquired ability, Su Jie looked towards the corner of the basement where several statues stood, blowing out a gentle breath. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The statues shattered one after another, revealing the soul-summoning banners inside. From the banners, one after another eerie and twisted figure floated, turning the basement dark, filled with a suffocating, chilling aura, and faintly, one could hear the wailing of resentment. The entire scene was weird and terrifying, as if becoming a den of ghosts. There were too many Yin souls, and had they been corporeal, even the basement would not have sufficed to contain them. However crowded it might have been, these Yin souls did not come near Su Jie's soul. As Su Jie's divine soul evolved towards the primordial spirit, it already possessed a hint of the primordial spirit's power. Further shielded by the purple cloud heavenly thunder inherent in his divine soul, it kept these Yin souls instinctively away from him. Gather! Su Jie collected all the Yin souls and then merged them all into the 10,000 soul banner. The number of Yin souls in the 10,000 soul banner kept increasing, from a few thousand to climbing steadily until it returned to 10,000. This number of Yin souls enabled the use of the 10,000 Yin blood nether array, restoring its power. Having accomplished this, Su Jie's divine soul returned to his body, placed the 10,000 soul banner into his storage bag, completing his main purpose of returning to Hua country. Mr. Su, there's a visitor at the door claiming to be from Aster Pharmaceutical. The butler hurriedly reported after returning to the villa from the basement. I've only been back for 2 days, and they've already tracked me down. Their intelligence is indeed impressive. Go and have them come up, take them to the reception room. Su Jie ordered after a sweep with his divine sense. Soon, Su Jie saw 2 figures. One was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man around 50 or 60, dressed in a sharp suit, with thick hair and an intelligent, shrewd look in his eyes. Following behind him was a beautiful female secretary, carrying a briefcase, very capable-looking. Mr. Su, I am Polo Ben, the president of Aster Pharmaceutical. Polo smiled even before he spoke, and he greeted in Chinese as a sign of sincerity, although his accent was so thick that Su Jie almost couldn't understand him. The personal visit from the president of a Fortune 500 company certainly showed plenty of sincerity. Please take a seat. Let's communicate in English, Su Jie said, guessing the purpose of the visit. As the president of Aster Pharmaceutical and helmsman of a Fortune 500 company, he surely wasn't here for idle chatter. In English? That's perfect, Lisa. It seems you won't be needed here after all. Polo chuckled, pointing to his female secretary. This is my secretary, Lisa. Mr. Su, it's a pleasure to meet you, Lisa said with a sweet smile, bending down to greet Su Jie. As she bent down, the low-cut V-neckline allowed a glimpse of her snowy white fullness, a highly annoying temptation. She was a flawless beauty, a standard sweetheart in the eyes of Americans. In the aesthetic standards of Asians, she had a finely sculpted, three-dimensional face, and her skin lacked the large pores typical of Europeans and Americans, making her a top-tier beauty there, too. Lisa, you always admired Mr. Su for his business savviness starting from scratch. When you have the time, you could learn a lot about doing business from him, Polo said with enthusiasm, not in a hurry to state his purpose, sounding more like a pimp. From the data he had collected, one attribute of Su Jie was indeed labeled as lecherous, along with a penchant for uniforms, a detail inferred entirely from Lu Yingying's side. Su Jie gave a casual smile. They had resorted to using a beauty trick. Mr. Polo, feel free to speak your mind. My time is quite precious, Su Jie said, glancing at his phone. I have to take a nap soon. If you don't get to the point, I'll have to excuse myself. It seemed that a nap was far more valuable to him than the opportunity to interact with an international pharmaceutical CEO. Polo's smile remained undiminished, but the warmth in his eyes faded noticeably. Mr. Su, I'm here on behalf of Aster Pharmaceutical today, and you should know why. The market for Tianyuan hair growth liquid isn't something you can take on alone, and even Aster Pharmaceutical can't handle it. We need to share the benefits with others. In this world, cooperation and mutual benefit are the true path. Or as you Chinese say, what is it again? Polo turned his gaze to his secretary, Lisa. The tree that stands out in the forest is the first to be brought down by the wind, Lisa pronounced fluently in Mandarin. Not bad, your Chinese is quite good, but your Chinese teacher didn't teach you another saying. He who doesn't cross the river cannot get the dragon, Su Jie said, glancing at them both indifferent. These days, the brave die of their courage and the timid starve to death. With a monopolistic product like Tianyuan hair growth liquid, you want to make a quick deal and expect me to give up profits just like that? You're thinking too much. Polo's smile faded a bit more, and his tone carried a hint of threat. The consequences of a monopolistic product. How many businesses have gone bankrupt? And how many people have lost their jobs because of Tianyuan hair growth liquid around the world? Don't you ever consider the impact? Su Jie scoffed with disdain. Cars replaced horse carriages. Machinery replaced handicrafts. It's the development of the times, necessary sacrifices. Perhaps that's true, but it's predicated on power. We in Europe and America have labor unions and industrial associations. I wouldn't dare to imagine what would happen when you do this. Polo leaned forward slightly and said indifferently, "Join us, and we can help you deal with the troublemakers. Distribute your products to every customer through our sales networks worldwide, and further push your profits higher. Don't you want Tianyuan Daily to go public? With most of Tianyuan Hair Growth Liquid's revenue coming from overseas, maximizing market value means listing in the United States. This requires collective strength, the underwriters for going public, private financing, IPOs, etc., all of which we can help you plan and manage, eventually helping you list in the United States and creating a trillion-dollar market value legend. At that point, you could own a top 10 global company, become the wealthiest person in the world, receiving the admiration and worship of thousands, enjoying endless flowers and applause. Isn't that worth your temptation?" Polo, worthy of being a CEO, was likely used to making such promises to his employees. Such rhetoric could easily ignite passion and make people daydream about that kind of scenario. What's the loss to you? Although you'll share profits, the cake will grow as everyone contributes. And so will your net worth. That's the benefit of a win-win cooperation. Polo continued, believing that a young man like Su Jie, who longed for fame and attention, couldn't resist the temptation of becoming the center of the world's focus. Done talking? Then my response is very simple. I refuse. Su Jie listened to Polo's spiel with a playful smile on his lips. Becoming the world's richest man and every action taken scrutinized under the spotlight? What about all his secrets? Su Jie was more interested in becoming immortal. No matter how much money one has, you can't take it to hell when you die, can you? Besides, even if Su Jie really wanted to go public, he wouldn't be able to do it. Surely, the new stakeholders would want to know the real secret behind Tianyuan Hair Growth Liquid. How was he supposed to introduce the core technology of the product during the IPO, Ghost Hair from Tianyuan World? Expose the mysterious sides dimensionally transcending impact? Polo's expression became stiff. There were indeed people in the world who weren't interested in becoming the richest person. Lisa, too, was taken aback, her eyes wide with incredulity. After a long while, Polo, who had been leaning forward, leaned back on the sofa, crossed his legs, raising 3 fingers up. "Mr. Su, I've said all I had to say, and I'll give you 3 final options. First, sell the formula for Tianyuan Hair Growth Liquid. Second, let Aster Pharmaceutical buy into Tianyuan Daily. And third," Polo's attitude was exceptionally stern, staring at Su Jie for several seconds. "Third, be defeated by Aster Pharmaceutical. I prefer challenging jobs." Su Jie smiled faintly, his demeanor unshaken by such posturing. It was nothing compared to Ain Sol. Polo frowned slightly, stood up from the sofa and said, "You'll soon regret what you said today. When you see our company's power, negotiating won't come with such generous terms." With that, Polo turned to leave the reception room with Lisa. "Wait a moment. Are you from the Averson family?" Suddenly, Su Jie called out. "I'm a professional manager hired to serve Aster Pharmaceutical. Of course, if you like, you can lump me in with them. After all, our interests are aligned for now." After saying this, Polo turned and left with Lisa. As Polo's figure disappeared out of sight, Su Jie chuckled quietly, glancing at a small beetle resting on the tip of his left finger. "Well, I'll spare your life." He was but a minor character pushed to the forefront, inconsequential to the grand scheme of things. It wouldn't do to scare off other key figures by acting now. As Polo left, he felt an inexplicable chill down his spine, unaware that he had just walked by the ghost gate. "Mr. Jose." After leaving the Jingjiang No. 1 villa, Polo made a call in the car. How did the negotiation go? On the other end of the phone was the current head of the Averson family, Jose Averson, who was also the true controller of Aster Pharmaceutical. "I'm sorry, I didn't clinch the deal." Polo briefly described the negotiation process. The other party was a major shareholder of Aster Pharmaceutical. He was just an employee, and the president in name couldn't decide anything. "Understood. Proceed with the plan, and let's give him a taste of hardship first." Jose Averson spoke calmly, and then he hung up the phone. Turning his head to glance at the villa once more, Polo shook his head and said, "Honestly, what a hassle." "Oh, As Polo returned disheartened, Aster Pharmaceuticals' retaliation came swiftly. In the United States, the trouble started first. Groups of the unemployed, who had lost their jobs due to the listing of Tianyuan hair growth liquid and the subsequent business closures, organized by unions and industry associations, formed massive protest marches, carrying various banners and signs with messages like, "Tianyuan hair growth liquid out," "Give us back our jobs," and "China-made is eroding our country." They demonstrated and marched through busy streets. This commotion began in the United States and soon spread to various parts of Europe and America, aided by those with ulterior motives. Past hair transplantation doctors, wig industry workers, pharmaceutical company employees, and others protested that the appearance of Tianyuan hair growth liquid had upended their livelihoods. If these protests seemed minor and more like a bit of media frenzy, then what came next was a piece of news that plunged Tianyuan hair growth liquid deeply into a whirlpool of public opinion. On March 15th, International Consumer Rights Day, Nuanan Pharmaceutical and Food Testing Laboratory, globally renowned and having undertaken national-level project testing and verification, suddenly issued a shocking announcement. After a series of complex tests, we have discovered multiple harmful substances in Tianyuan hair growth liquid, which may cause skin diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and respiratory diseases in humans. Once this message was released, it immediately caught the attention of major news media. New York Times, a mysterious medical product from the eastern ancient country, packaged as a hair treatment, but in reality a dangerously limitless poison. Guardian, a shocking shampoo that is endangering the health of hundreds of millions of consumers worldwide. Daily Mail, how has Tianyuan hair growth liquid remained explosively popular to this day? The secret behind it is finally uncovered. One after another, well-known global news media fervently publicized the story, and over the next few days more and more testing institutions joined in, releasing their own reports on Tianyuan hair growth liquid. One day a report suggested the discovery of excessive heavy metals. Another day the possibility of a high risk of cancer was raised, followed by advice for consumers to choose carefully. CNN television on a popular current news program. The host David held the microphone, smiling at the camera. "Hello my friends. Welcome to David Speaks. I'm your boldest truth-teller, King David. The topic we're discussing today is serious. I'm sure many viewers have used Tianyuan hair growth liquid, but have you ever wondered if this product could harm our bodies? In pursuit of the most authentic data, we invited a heavyweight guest, a renowned scholar in the medical field and a Nobel Prize winner in medicine, Terry Hades. An elderly man with gold-rimmed glasses and a kind face appeared on camera. Mr. Terry, what is your opinion on Tianyuan hair growth liquid? It's a product designed to make money without any regard for public health. The presence of such a product on the market is a shame for government agencies around the world." Terry adjusted his glasses and delivered his verdict. "Wow, that's quite a sharp statement. Mr. Terry, do you have detailed test data?" "Of course, this is the data I have tested. Various harms significantly exceed the standards, and I am willing to be responsible for every word I have said." Facing the camera, the medical authority directly addressed the issue. "To safeguard the physical health of the people, I urge Tianyuan Daily to immediately disclose the detailed formula and undergo more stringent testing. If it can be proved that Tianyuan hair growth liquid is harmless, I am personally willing to apologize." Oh, after being fanned by major news media, the claims about the dangers of Tianyuan hair growth liquid to human health reached a climax. One by one, consumers who had purchased and used the product could not hold back, lashing out on social media platforms like Twitter. "The Tianyuan hair growth liquid I bought just doesn't seem appealing anymore. I'm going to get a refund. Damn it. I knew something was up with my skin breaking out in rashes recently. I can't believe such a product could brazenly be on shelves. Hua Country products have always been predominantly low quality. I've been telling you not to buy them. Now you regret it, right? I just bought a bottle of Tianyuan hair growth liquid yesterday. This shitty company. Hua Country people are all a bunch of liars. This is a monopolistic product, and they also practice price discrimination against us foreign users. selling it for $20 in Hua country and $159 in our country. They should have been punished long ago. The Hua Country Company must pay the price, compensating us for our losses. Things are still unclear. I've been using Tianyuan hair growth liquid for 2 months without any discomfort. Exactly, could it be a testing error? I really can't do without Tianyuan hair growth liquid now. I believe Tianyuan hair growth liquid is fine. Fake news in our country isn't new. Only idiots believe them. Just a bunch of anti-intellectual idiots. I work for a pharmaceutical company, and although there's one substance in Tianyuan hair growth liquid that can't be detected, there's absolutely no harm to the human body. When a Nobel Prize winner has personally come forward, and you're still deceiving yourselves. These negative attacking comments flooded social media, accompanied by a chorus of curses. Meanwhile, those seemingly rational voices defending Tianyuan hair growth liquid were quickly suppressed on these platforms, vanished without a trace, and even their accounts were mercilessly banned. As the controversy intensified, even the United States Commerce Department stepped forward, with the spokesperson openly stating, "After our investigation and evidence collection, Tianyuan hair growth liquid does indeed pose a potential risk of causing illness to consumers. Considering the health of our citizens, we are now ordering all major supermarkets to temporarily remove this product from shelves." Furthermore, the Tianyuan daily person in charge is required to come to our country within a fortnight to attend a business committee hearing, where issues such as consumer health, product hazard, price discrimination, and monopoly will be discussed for self-examination. If the safety hearing is not passed, we will fine the involved enterprise, with the expected amount exceeding $3 billion. Almost immediately after the United States issued the notice, Europe swiftly followed suit with a colossal fine of €34.68 billion and ordered a comprehensive recall of Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Following the official intervention, Tianyuan hair growth liquid went from being a product sought after by tens of thousands to one mired in constant skepticism, its sales plummeting, losing a vast market. Chan Country, Monday City. Back at Jeka Company's headquarters building from Hua Country, Su Jie was convening a meeting with Chen Yaoguang and Lu Yingying when he received a phone call from Polo, the president of Aster Pharmaceutical. No one knew how Su Jie's phone number had been leaked, but one should never underestimate the intelligence capabilities of these pharmaceutical companies. "Mr. Su, I wonder if you've seen our sincerity." Over the phone, Polo's tone was somewhat elevated, exuding a confident assurance. Aster Pharmaceutical really lives up to its reputation as one of the world's top 500 companies. Such lobbying groups have great capabilities, even mobilizing government departments of the United States. To wield such influence in both the political and business realms, you must have poured quite a lot of money into it. Su Jie sat on the sofa, with the computer screen in front of him still displaying the news from the United States Commerce Department announcing sanctions against Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Polo's voice over the phone was hearty as he said, "This is the result of sharing interests. We can leverage their power in the political, business, and media circles, and you've seen the effects. I imagine, Mr. Su, you must be out of your wits' end right now. How does it feel to have large quantities of Tianyuan hair growth liquid in stock but unable to sell? Then you are probably thinking too much. I'm still eating well and sleeping well. Even if sales have dropped, that hasn't stopped me from making a lot of money every day. The Hua Country market alone is enough to keep me well-fed. Mr. Su, this is just the beginning. Our influence in Europe and America is not something you can imagine. Although you have money, you do not understand the importance of sharing interests. Eventually, you won't even be able to keep the Hua Country market. It's not too late to change your mind now. You should cherish the opportunity we're giving you." My answer is still the same 2 words. I refuse. Su Jie spoke without a moment's hesitation and continued, "Also, don't call me again unless it's important. I'm very busy." Mr. Su, aren't you afraid that when we launch comprehensive sanctions, not only will your overseas market vanish, but Tianyuan hair growth liquid will be completely banned from customs, and you'll also have to deal with fines from our country? Polo's voice on the phone was a bit exasperated, as he obviously hadn't expected Su Jie to be so unyielding. Tianyuan hair growth liquid had fallen into such dire straits, on the verge of being driven out of the European and American markets, and still he refused to relent. This was a market worth trillions of dollars, and yet someone was able to endure such a loss of interests and not bow their head. This was something profit-centric Polo just couldn't understand. Is this what you Americans propound as free trade? Fine then. I welcome your continued targeting. Su Jie hung up the phone, no longer interested in entertaining Polo's jabber. Mr. Su. Aster Pharmaceutical admitted it was them. Both Lu Yingying and Chen Yaoguang were deeply worried about this situation. Who else could it be if not them? Their influence is just somewhat beyond imagination. Su Jie nodded, acknowledging that Aster Pharmaceutical, one of the world's top 500 companies, truly should not be underestimated. Given the current situation, Mr. Su, will attending the inquiry to prove our product is problem-free have any effect? Can we get Tianyuan hair growth liquid back on the shelves for sale in the Europe and America region? Chen Yaoguang pointed at the news on the computer screen. The United States usually imposes sanctions on tech companies, and it was rare to see them target hair shampoo. If you went, it would be uncertain whether you could come back or not. Besides, even if you think you are innocent, as long as others want to slander you, any explanation is futile. Su Jie shook his head. He had no trust in the United States government, which followed a logic of banditry, seeing something good belonging to others and wanting to seize it for themselves. For many years, this had not changed. The so-called free trade is free when it benefits them, but when it doesn't, they resort to sanctions and blockades. Then, about the penalty. Fines? We don't have any assets within their jurisdiction, nor can they freeze our assets in Hua country. Su Jie didn't care at all about this. Other tech companies feared sanctions because they needed the industry support from their counterparts, like smartphones reliant on chips and other supplies, sometimes forcing them to pay fines. But the Tianyuan hair growth liquid didn't need a cent from the United States for supply. Let them fine as much as they wish. If they could collect even a hair, consider them lucky. That was where Su Jie's confidence came from. Lu Yingying explained, because we're in a seller's market, we require foreign vendors to pay in full before shipping, so there's no issue with outstanding payments, and they have nothing to withhold. The only thing I'm worried about now is the Tianyuan hair growth liquid being taken off the shelves in Europe and America. If this continues, our biggest source of revenue will be cut off, and we have to do something. Su Jie stroked his chin. Tianyuan hair growth liquid could still operate in the Hua country market and achieve annual revenues of 1 trillion Hua yuan. But compared to the global revenue of $1 trillion, there's a bit of a gap. Su Jie thought for a moment, then asked, what's the current reaction from the citizens in Europe and America? I've had people check. Because of the mass removal of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, many consumers who previously used it can't find a substitute, and their once lush hair has begun to fall out again. This has led to a situation where Tianyuan hair growth liquid is hard to come by in Europe and America, with the price continually rising. On the black market, it's even been sold for $300, $500, and sometimes $1,000 a bottle. Lu Yingying said with regret. Were it not for Aster Pharmaceuticals' interference and the United States Commerce Department not playing fair, starting trade sanctions, Tianyuan hair growth liquid could have been hugely successful on the market. It seems there are still many who remain unswayed. As long as users have truly tried our Tianyuan hair growth liquid, they'll know our product is unproblematic. Su Jie nodded. This aligned with his expectations. After the major supermarkets took Tianyuan hair growth liquid off their shelves, the demand for it didn't vanish. Anyone who had used Tianyuan hair growth liquid wasn't going to relinquish it so easily. Their hair would protest. But now they can't buy the product. Even if they want to support us, they can't. Chen Yaoguang sighed with disappointment, pained by the sight of all that potential profit just beyond reach. Not necessarily. As Su Jie pondered, an idea suddenly came to him. Do you have a plan? Lu Yingying asked anxiously, knowing Su Jie always had many ideas. Su Jie nodded and shared his thought. Since ancient times, wherever there is high profit, the more forbidden the trade, the more willing people are to take risks. In ancient times, there was a monopoly on salt and iron, which is why the smuggling of salt thrived. The United States once issued a prohibition order last century, which led to the rise of bootleggers and the mafia. For patients, our Tianyuan hair growth liquid has become a necessity they can't live without. Since the officials won't let us in, then we'll just sell it ourselves and don't even pay them taxes. Could it be? Lu Yingying seemed to understand something, her mouth agape. Su Jie snapped his fingers and said with a smile, "Exactly. I'm going to engage in one of the oldest businesses in human history. Smuggling. Yingying, go buy a ticket to fly to Mexico. Remember to disguise your identity so that those watching us won't notice." 2 days later, on a plane to Mexico, Su Jie was holding a book, studying the Mexican language. Is cramming at the last minute actually useful? Lu Yingying, sitting beside Su Jie, asked curiously when she saw this. Her English was very good, but she hadn't dabbled in the native language of Mexico. It's not difficult. Once I've learned it, I can take you touring around the place and we'll be able to communicate without barriers, Su Jie said, flipping through the pages quickly. His divine soul was so strong that with a sweep of his divine sense, he could grasp the basics of the language. The only issues were fluency and accent. You don't seem nervous at all, but that's Mexico we're talking about. Maybe we should forget about the tourism part, said Lu Yingying, shaking her head repeatedly. She had also done her homework before heading to Mexico and knew how chaotic and dangerous the country was. Here, unlike in the Mande region, there was no large contingent of JECA security, which always caused concern. We're going on business. They'll be more than welcoming to us, Su Jie responded without lifting his head. If they encountered an unreasonable business partner, even without a single member of JECA security present, Su Jie could easily handle the danger. Lu Yingying just didn't know that the greatest protection came from right beside her. Mexico. With more than 1.96 million square kilometers of land and 120 million people. Despite being so close to the United States, the wealthiest and most powerful country in the world, and sharing a 3,000-kilometer border with it, the people living here are exceptionally poor. When it comes to Mexico, the impressions one gets about the country are chaos and violence. In this country, the most infamous thing is the prevalence of opium. For decades, the opium trade has become an important pillar of Mexico's economy, with over 500 cities involved in the smuggling of opium. The main reason for this is the proximity of the United States, the world's largest consumer of opium. Currently, more than 60% of the world's opium is sold to the United States, with nearly 10% of the U.S. population being drug users. The several thousand kilometers of the U.S.-Mexico border undoubtedly make it the best location for the production and distribution of opium. The annual trade in opium between the U.S. and Mexico, valued at $30 to $40 billion, has fostered a thriving opium industry within Mexico's borders and countless drug lords. Even if a drug lord is taken down, driven by enormous profits, more will continue to emerge and enter the trade. Taylu City, a city near the U.S.-Mexico border, and also a major center for drug trafficking and criminal activity. At the airport, Su Jie walked out with Lu Yingying. They had planned to hail a taxi to the hotel, but unexpectedly, the taxi took them to an increasingly remote location. When the car stopped on a desolate road, Su Jie felt the local customs were quite simple. The taxi driver got out quickly and blew a sharp whistle. Outside the taxi, several locals responded to the sound and warmly welcomed Su Jie and his companions. One by one, black handgun muzzles were pressed against Su Jie's forehead. "Hand over all the money you've got. Hurry up, you yellow monkey. Can't you understand what I'm saying? And the woman, we can have a good time with her." These hooligans used foul language and were wildly enjoying the situation. Lu Yingying bit her lip in the back seat, trying to maintain her composure. "Ah, I feel your warm welcome, so as a return gift, I'll send you on a trip to hell," Su Jie replied in Mexican Spanish with a strange accent. With a stretch of his hand, a gun flew from the grasp of a thug straight into Su Jie's own hand. Su Jie held the handgun, aimed it at the thug's forehead, and a slight smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and the body heavily fell to the ground, with fresh blood oozing out of the bullet hole right between the eyebrows. Just as a few thugs began to react and were about to pull their triggers, several gunshots almost sounded at the same time. Bang! 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 3 lifeless bodies lay on the ground, and finally, Su Jie looked at the driver who was leading the way, pointing the handgun at him. "Are you going to take me to the hotel? Or do you plan to sleep here like them?" The driver was terrified and nodded hastily. "I'll take you to the hotel." The car continued to start, and Su Jie also sat back in the back seat, resuming his reading as if nothing had happened. "Su Jie, you're so skilled." Lu Yingying was astonished. She had asked why Su Jie hadn't brought a few JECA security guards with him. Now she understood why. "Haven't you felt it in bed?" Su Jie raised an eyebrow, causing Lu Yingying's pretty face to blush. "This place is too dangerous. We should have brought more people." Lu Yingying clung to Su Jie's arm, the dangerous gazes of those Mexicans towards them. If not for Su Jie being there, she would never have come to this place. "It's okay. I'm here." He comforted Lu Yingying with a few words, telling her not to worry. Chit-chatting along the way, they soon arrived at a hotel in the city center. Su Jie got out of the car with Lu Yingying and entered the hotel. Behind them, the taxi sped away with a slam on the gas, fleeing from Su Jie, this dangerous person. "Wait until I notify the boss. Killing our brothers and thinking it will just end like this. Wait for your beheading." The expression on the driver's face was no longer sycophantic but full of hatred. Hiss! As he spoke, the driver suddenly felt a pain in his neck. Reaching out, he slapped and killed a strange bug. Where did this bug come from? The driver didn't finish his words before his body became paralyzed, unable to speak, his body convulsing violently. The accelerator beneath his foot uncontrollably floored, and the car charged straight towards a thick concrete wall. In the hotel room, Lu Yingying took out some information which were gathered using the means of JECA Company, including some intelligence within Mexico, among which were the largest drug lord organizations in the country. Tailu City was the headquarters of one such organization called the Tijuana Drug Lord Organization, which ranked in the top 3 among many groups trafficking opium in Mexico. Their main work was cultivating and selling opium, and they also dealt with some human smuggling businesses, helping people from various countries scale the border wall and enter into the United States to breathe the sweet air of freedom and realize the American dream. This man is named Juarez Guzman Lora. He is the head of the Tijuana drug trafficking group, the #1 most wanted criminal in the world. Lu Yingying pointed at a photo of a bald man with a very fierce face. "I like the look of him, so I've decided it's going to be him."
Su Jie nodded in satisfaction.
This man had strength and was a good partner to work with. To complete the smuggling of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, it was necessary to rely on local forces, as it was impossible to do it alone. And these arrogant and brutal drug traffickers were just the partners Su Jie had chosen. While others feared to work with such people, Su Jie, a demon cultivator, found these opium sellers to be just little darlings in his eyes. In Tailu City, there was an extremely luxurious and large mansion. Around the mansion, every 5 steps there was a guard, and every 10 steps a sentry, all armed gang members on watch. This was because the mansion belonged to the head of the Tijuana drug trafficking group, Juarez Guzman, who had implemented the most extensive protective measures to guard against police arrest. Late at night, Juarez returned home, seething with anger. That day, yet another shipment had been intercepted by U.S. police at the border, and a covert route for transporting goods had been discovered, causing him significant losses. Fuck! Those idiot minions. Can't they give me a break? Cursing under his breath, Juarez walked into his bedroom, intending to go to bed and rest. However, the moment he looked down, he noticed an envelope on the pillow. "What? Get over here, we've got intruders." The look on his face turned to shock, and Juarez immediately called for his men while drawing a pistol from his coat. As a notorious wanted criminal, there was no shortage of people after his life. Who knew if the room still harbored danger? Only after a horde of gang minions had rushed into the room and thoroughly searched every nook and cranny, ensuring there was no danger, did Juarez dare to come in. "Boss, what's going on?" The number 2 man of Tijuana, Carter, who was in charge of strategizing, hurried over to inquire about the situation. Juarez's expression was grim as he shook his head. "I don't know. This envelope just appeared on my pillow." Carter cursed the surrounding minions. "What kind of protection is this? Someone sneaked into the boss's room, and you're clueless. What's the use of you? What if it was a bomb?" The minions, scolded until they were drenched in metaphorical blood, could only promise with shame, "We really didn't notice any movement. This won't happen again." "You think there's going to be a next time? Forget it. Let's open the letter and see what it says." Juarez interrupted and picked up the envelope, tearing it open. "Dear Mr. Juarez, we are business partners from the Chan Country region and plan to visit tomorrow morning before 10 o'clock. That was all that was written on the envelope, nothing more. Juarez and Carter looked at each other, eye to eye, for quite a while. "Do you know anyone over there?" "Not a single person." "So what's with this business partner?" As they spoke, it was Carter who first came to a realization, slapping his thigh. "I know who sent this letter." "Who?" Juarez quickly asked, as anyone capable of slipping an envelope into his bedroom undetected was certainly skilled. "It must be a peer from the Golden Triangle." Carter shared his guess. In Blue Star, there are 2 most famous opium production regions. One is the Golden Triangle, the other the Silver Triangle. The Silver Triangle is located at the intersection of Mexico, Peru, and Colombia within the Andes Mountains and Amazon region. The Golden Triangle is similarly situated at the confluence of 3 countries, with Chan Country being one of its origins, where there is a strong atmosphere for opium production, and the local warlords all support the cultivation of opium. So that's how it is. No wonder they said, "Business partner." It's all within the industry. Juarez had an epiphany. It all made sense now. But why are they looking for us? We've never dealt with them before, right? Isn't their market mainly in East Asia? Having understood where the letter came from, Juarez was filled with even more doubts, not comprehending what these people could want with him. Even though they had not interacted before, he knew well that the drug lords from that region were extremely powerful and domineering. If one were to say that the primary business of Mexican drug lords was to engage in armed drug trafficking, then the primary business of the Golden Triangle drug lords was for warlords to engage in drug trafficking to fund their military expenditures. Their business philosophies also differed, with the Golden Triangle side being more militarily factionalized governments and military organizations with a strong military background. While the Mexican drug lords also clashed with the government, they did not harbor ambitions to carve out their own independent territories and could be considered a more advanced criminal organization. Due to the difference in business philosophies and the great distance between them, they had coexisted peacefully in the past, with one focusing on the East Asia market and the other on the United States market, neither stepping on the other's toes. "I'm not sure, but I've heard that the Golden Triangle has been struggling recently. Aren't they mainly selling traditional opium products like flour? Besides marijuana, we mainly deal with newer synthetic opium substances. So maybe they want to collaborate with us to get their flour into the United States market." Carter frowned. As the military strategist of the Tijuana drug trafficking group, he tried hard to comprehend the other party's intentions. "If we can expand our business, it's good to have a win-win collaboration." Juarez's face brightened at the thought. Collaborating with the Golden Triangle might allow his opium business to grow even further and reach new heights of success. Thus, the two discussed, looking forward to the cooperation tomorrow with great anticipation. The following day, the sun rose in the east, and the morning fog cleared. Outside the manor, a taxi slowly approached. If the driver hadn't been held at gunpoint, he wouldn't dare come anywhere near this place. Everyone in Tailu City knew this was a drug trafficker's manor. At the manor gate, gang members notified earlier stood ready for the arrival. Seeing a taxi approach was somewhat unexpected, though. "How much?" Su Jie asked the driver with a smile.
No charge."
The driver shivered, assuming Su Jie was some drug lord and dared not take his money. "I'm not one to take advantage of free rides. Keep the change." Su Jie shook his head, tossed a few bills, and got out of the car. Lu Yingying, carrying a briefcase, also got out, following close behind Su Jie. As soon as they exited the taxi, fierce gazes scrutinized them. The tattoo-covered, scar-faced drug traffickers were unquestionably dangerous, brandishing their guns conspicuously. An ordinary person might indeed be intimidated by these drug traffickers, but Su Jie was no ordinary person. Such pressure to him was merely like a gentle breeze. Lu Yingying maintained a calm demeanor, repeatedly envisioning the scenes of Jekka's securities forces in her mind, murmuring to herself, "There's nothing to fuss about. We have an army on our side. It's these gangsters who should be afraid of us." Emboldening herself this way, Lu Yingying showed no fear. "Take me to your boss, as we agreed upon yesterday." Su Jie strode up to a few of the gang members, gestured commandingly, and spoke fluently in Spanish as if he were issuing orders to his own subordinates. After a few days of practice, his Spanish no longer had any accent issues. "Please follow me." This Mexican drug trafficker, a towering man of 2 meters, dared not make any improper moves in front of Su Jie. Everyone had been strictly warned that the visitors were foreign warlords. They did not want to cause trouble for their organization. Su Jie and Lu Yingying entered the manor, and a few minutes later, in a reception room, Su Jie met Juarez, the head of the Tijuana organization, and Carter, the second in command. Upon seeing Su Jie, Juarez and Carter exchanged looks, and their hearts settled. An Asian. Their guess was on target. He was indeed looking to collaborate with them on the opium business. "Mr. Juarez." Su Jie scanned the room and, looking towards Juarez, extended his hand and said, "I am Su Jie from Jekka Company." "Hello. We've always heard about the great reputation of the Golden Triangle. Are you operating as a group now?" Juarez extended his hand warmly, and the two shook hands. "The Golden Triangle. Mr. Juarez, I think you've misunderstood. I'm not here to talk about opium trade." Su Jie shook his head. Hearing the term Golden Triangle, he knew there had been some misunderstanding. Juarez was taken aback and instinctively turned to look at Carter, who was next to him. "Mr. Su, my name is Carter. Aren't you a local warlord from Chan country? If it's not about opium, then what is it about?"
Carter continued to scrutinize Su Jie.
He couldn't discern anything particular about the man, except that he seemed exceedingly dangerous, significantly more so than even the most lethal gang member in his group. "If you say we are warlords, you're not wrong. But our business isn't about dealing with opium." Su Jie snapped his fingers, and Lu Yingying opened the briefcase. Gang members nearby instinctively reached into their jackets, warily watching Lu Yingying. Their concerns were unnecessary as Lu Yingying took out a bottle of the international version of Tianyuan hair growth liquid from the briefcase. "I presume you have heard of this Tianyuan hair growth liquid. We would like to partner with you to distribute this product." Su Jie looked at Juarez's hair. The wanted pictures still showed him as bald, but now he had grown a head of thick hair, possibly using Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Juarez and Carter both recognized the Tianyuan hair growth liquid, a product that sold very well in the United States but had not yet been released in Mexico. They had heard much about it. Even if they hadn't used it personally, they surely had seen the advertisements. "Is this produced by you?" Juarez looked at Su Jie with an odd expression, surprised that Su Jie would bring up such a product to discuss a partnership. "Yes, the product is currently banned from being shelved for sale in the United States, and the price of Tianyuan hair growth liquid has shot up to several hundred US dollars per bottle. As long as you can smuggle Tianyuan hair growth liquid across the border into the United States, you can reap huge profits with an income of at least billions of dollars each year." Su Jie chuckled lightly, placing the Tianyuan hair growth liquid on the table, his eyes intensely fixed on the two opposite him. "This." Juarez and Carter were both tempted, their breathing becoming somewhat hurried. They were also aware of the recent uproar about the Tianyuan hair growth liquid ban. Smuggling the hair growth liquid into the United States would be no issue for them. Having dared to smuggle opium, they certainly wouldn't hesitate over a hair growth product. "Mr. Su, what kind of partnership do you have in mind?" Carter immediately asked. He had heard about Tianyuan hair growth liquid selling more than 20 million bottles a month in the United States. If they could take it all, it would be a vast fortune, far more extravagant than the outrageous profits from trafficking opium. Especially since smuggling hair growth liquid carried far lighter penalties. No need to risk their lives against U.S. police like with opium, where one slip could lead to total ruin. We ship the product to Mexico, you find people to receive it and smuggle it into the interior of the United States, where there is a large shortage and buyers are scrambling. As for the price, we split it 70-30. Su Jie stated his terms. That's too little, 70% hardly covers our costs. Juarez immediately became restless, very dissatisfied with the distribution. 70% is ours, he stated. Su Jie glanced at Juarez. What was he thinking? Without his own supply, was he going to sell air? Still expecting to take 70%. Also, you should suspend the opium business for now and focus on selling my Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Just this product alone will make you earn pots full of money. Su Jie continued to make more demands, hoping they would not get distracted by selling opium and affect his own smuggling business. After all, with monthly sales volumes of tens of millions of bottles, they couldn't meet the massive consumer market in the United States unless they dedicated themselves fully to smuggling. What? Impossible, the opium business is our core. That's something we cannot give up. Moreover, in terms of distribution, we want 80% of the profits. You just deliver the goods and we can handle the rest. You don't need to worry about it. Taking a 20% profit is already enough for you to earn. Juarez was extremely dissatisfied. His gaze at Su Jie filled with anger and yet greedier still. Boss, this negotiation will collapse like this. Cartel couldn't help but whisper in Juarez's ear, fearing that such greed would scare people off from such a profitable business. The smuggling process is the most dangerous, and we bear all the risks. We rightfully deserve the biggest share of the profit. Juarez didn't care at all, his mind clouded by the huge profits. It seems there's no deal to be made. Su Jie shrugged, smiling and said, Mexico isn't the only place with a drug lord. We have plenty of partners. This is my territory, not some golden triangle. Here you have to listen to me. If you don't agree, you might not be able to walk out of this room today. Juarez gave a signal, and the nearby gang members took out guns from their bosoms. No sense of etiquette. You drug lords handle things too crudely. Su Jie shook his head. The smile on his face vanished, his eyes ice cold. I really hate being threatened. I didn't even care about threats from Aster Pharmaceutical. You bunch of gutter rats dare to prickle me. Really? Ignorant of death. Almost as soon as his voice fell, a whistling sound came, and the gang members who had pulled out their guns had blood holes going straight through their heads almost simultaneously. Thud. One body after another heavily fell to the ground, their blood staining the floor. There's a sniper. The surviving members screamed in horror, the scene before their eyes clearly indicating a sniper hidden in the dark. The immediate thought they had. Dare to deceive, seize them. Juarez was taken aback, ordering people to come over while scrambling off, running into the neighboring room, fearing the sniper would shoot him. Lu Yingying leaned next to Su Jie, watching as one gang member after another charged fiercely, nearly bursting into tears. I originally intended to do business amicably, but you had to make it so bloody. Su Jie sighed helplessly, his divine sense sweeping over like water, constructing a three-dimensional scene in his mind. The next moment, Su Jie's divine soul power condensed, turning into an invisible yet existent divine soul arrow, swiftly shooting out. Thud, 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 thud. The soul arrows pierced through the heads of the gang members, taking their lives. Bodies fell one after the other onto the ground, their spilled blood emitting a thick stench of iron. To prepare for Su Jie's arrival today, Juarez had intentionally strengthened the manor's defenses, solely to be safe rather than sorry. Now that the conflict had erupted, these defensive forces naturally swarmed to suppress the danger and protect their boss. Little did they know, they were not facing an ordinary person, but the only transcendent of Blue Star. For these gangsters, Su Jie would not show a shred of pity. Arrows condensed from divine soul power were fired continuously, each with the power of a rifle bullet. Such might was naturally not effective against cultivators in the Tianyuan world, for a cultivator endowed with spiritual power could see the divine soul power, to say nothing of its relative weakness. But on Blue Star it was a different matter altogether, an unseen and deadly technique for murder. More and more gang members fell to the ground, baffled, without even catching a glimpse of Su Jie's face, losing their lives just like that.
Rocket launcher.
Throw grenades inside. Quick! Find the sniper. Seeing so many of their people dead, those still alive became scared. They were no fearless warriors. Instead, they hid behind walls, loudly blustering all sorts of things. Yet none dared to charge forward anymore. But what they did not realize was that bullets may not turn corners, but divine soul arrows could. A gang member crouched under a windowsill, spraying the room with his AK, with only part of his arms exposed and the rest of his body tucked behind the wall, firing blindly without any accuracy, embodying Uncle Black's textbook bad marksmanship. Whoosh! A faint whizzing sound was followed by that gang member gaining a new bloody hole in his forehead. As the body slowly fell, eyes wide open, it seemed to struggle with the incomprehensible truth that it could be shot even while hidden behind a wall. A mere wall was no match for the sweep of divine sense, and with a single shot from a divine soul arrow, life was easily taken. Su Jie's divine soul had not yet reached the level of primordial spirit, evolving in that direction. Its current power was only so much, but it was more than enough to deal with a bunch of gangsters. Some drug lords had just shouldered their rocket launchers, then were preemptively shot through the eye socket by a soul arrow. Some drug lords picked up heavy machine guns, and before they could pull the trigger, big holes appeared in the back of their heads. Some drug lords tried to call for reinforcements with their cell phones, yet before they could even dial out, their heads burst open. In the end, not a single one of the hundreds of drug lords hiding throughout the manor escaped, all shot dead by soul arrows. Those drug lords who realized the situation was dire and attempted to flee did not escape their doom. The divine soul arrows intercepted them mid-route, piercing through their heads. In the end, only 4 living people remained in the manor. Su Jie, Lu Yingying, Juarez, and Carter. Dead, all dead. At that moment, Juarez, who had escaped to the next room, could no longer hear the voices of his subordinates. The entire manor was eerily silent. This drug lord, who had been arrested and escaped from prison numerous times, and who often tormented others, now felt the proximity of death like never before, his face turning deathly pale. He couldn't understand why, on his own turf, Su Jie had such a strong armed presence whose killing efficiency was so terrifyingly high. Carter swallowed hard, his body trembling slightly in panic. "Mr. Juarez, it seems your men can't save you." Su Jie still sat comfortably in his chair, looking at Juarez, who had retreated to hide behind the sofa in the next room. His face wore a gentle smile as he spoke lightly. "Are you ready? Your men are quite lonely down there. Don't keep them waiting too long. I surrender. I agree to the way of cooperation you mentioned before. I am willing to follow your demands." Juarez screamed desperately. If he had known earlier that Su Jie had such a strong armed force, he wouldn't have dared oppose him at all. It's already too late. Su Jie walked step by step towards Juarez, with a pistol appearing in his hand, aimed at Juarez. Ignoring the desperate pleas for mercy, he emptied the magazine in one go, every bullet hitting Juarez. And then there were 3 left in the mansion. When Su Jie turned his gaze towards Carter, the man had already slumped to the ground, begging for mercy incessantly. "Mr. Su, spare my life. I never intended to oppose you." All that just now was Juarez acting on his own. Carter was almost scared to pee himself. After all, they were just a gang, which didn't have much resolve to begin with. Touching his chin, Su Jie chuckled. "Do you have the capability to manage the Tijuana drug cartel? A person with no value to me. I don't mind using another magazine." I do. I can integrate Tijuana's forces to serve you." Carter shouted loudly, knowing this was his only hope of survival, to serve this harbinger of death. Very well, then get to work. I'll give you 3 days. If you can't manage. The pistol in his hand spun around, its dark muzzle pressed against Carter's forehead. Soo-jae smiled and said, "Our snipers will be watching you at all times. Any attempt to flee or step out of line, and your head will burst like a watermelon. Do you understand?" "Understood, understood. I'll get on it now, right now. I'll take over Tijuana." Carter shivered, recalling the bizarre headshots of the gang members outside, unsure how many snipers were aiming at this place from the darkness. Even with the cruelty of a drug lord, he felt intimidated and dared not harbor any thoughts of resistance. Watching Carter leave, Soo-jae said to Lu Yingying, "Yingying, let's get out of here too. This place doesn't smell very good." "Ah, oh yes, yes." Lu Yingying snapped back to reality and hurried to follow Soo-jae out of the mansion. They hadn't walked 200 meters when suddenly, flames erupted from the mansion behind them. Initially small, the fire soon grew as more flammable material caught ablaze, and eventually, the entire mansion was engulfed in flames, erasing every piece of incriminating evidence within. "Why keep staring at me?" As they walked, Soo-jae suddenly turned his head. Lu Yingying hesitated for a few seconds before speaking. "With so many people killed this time, won't Carter seek revenge? And if the Mexican government investigates? Just some drug lords. Their deaths are a cleansing of nuisances. The local government would be too happy to care. As for Carter, if he dares to retaliate, it doesn't matter. We'll just replace him with another person in charge. It's a matter of one more magazine." "That's good. I really was scared to death just now. When did you bring reinforcements to Mexico?" "I had no idea, and I was so worried." "That? A secret. Just know that being by my side is very safe," Soo-jae said with a smile, offering no further explanation. Lu Yingying didn't ask any more questions, only feeling that Soo-jae was even more mysterious. This man surely had many secrets she did not know. Carter was indeed skilled. After Juarez met his sudden death, he swept away Juarez's followers with the speed of thunder and promoted his own people, already being the second in command of the Tijuana drug cartel. Thus, within mere 3 days, he had unified all factions, and the entire drug cartel was under his control. The numerous gang members were not particularly disturbed by this. After all, drug lords tend to have short lives, and it's normal for the upper echelons to engage in chaotic battles for profit. People just needed to follow the ultimate victor. As for everything that happened at Juarez Manor, no one had any clue. The gang subordinates below thought Carter had betrayed and killed Juarez, taking control of Tijuana, unaware that others were behind him. This wasn't considered a big deal, just a change of leadership. Weren't they all just normally growing and selling opium? But then, an order from the upper ranks completely baffled the numerous gang underlings. "What? You want us to stop our current operations and sell this stuff?" In a poor community in Taelu City, Chu Russell looked at a dozen large boxes filled with bottles of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, his face expressionless. "Yes, this is the new boss's order. You're to smuggle it into the United States and sell it there. A portion of the selling price is your compensation." The person responsible for the delivery was also from Tijuana, and he was just as confused about the order but had been instructed to pass it on like this. "Can this stuff even sell? I remember it's just shampoo, right?" Chu Russell showed a worried face, never having dealt with hair loss himself. He just recognized the name Tianyuan hair growth liquid without knowing much about it. "Who knows? Anyway, the boss wants it this way. You have activities tomorrow, right? Just take it and test the waters. Honestly, none of us are sure." All right, I'll give it a try, but don't blame me if it doesn't sell." Chu Russell was helpless. He had no idea if the new boss, Carter, was out of his mind, abandoning the lucrative opium trade to sell shampoo. Could they still consider themselves drug dealers? But as a subordinate, regardless of his dissatisfaction, Chu Russell could only obediently follow the orders. In a drug cartel like this, disobedient underlings faced extremely tragic fates. The next day, Chu Russell got everything ready, found a familiar truck driver, and loaded up the truck with boxes of Tianyuan hair growth liquid. "You're transporting so much this time?" The driver shuddered, looking at the dozen big boxes mixed in with fruit and vegetable crates, and felt his scalp tingle. If they were caught, he'd be sitting in jail for a long time. Just drive your truck and don't ask questions you shouldn't. Chu Russell glared at him and took the passenger seat. The driver, worried, turned his gaze away. If it weren't for his family that he needed to provide for and the brutality of these drug lords, he wouldn't want to take such private jobs. The truck soon started moving, heading in the direction of the U.S.-Mexico border. The driver kept pressing the gas pedal, hoping to deliver the goods quickly and without mishaps. But typically, the more one worries about something, the more likely it is to happen. On a road, a military police checkpoint appeared ahead, every officer armed and with dogs checking passing vehicles. In Mexico, where drug trafficking is rampant, the police could be quick to shoot if anything seemed amiss. Because they were just now climbing a hill, by the time the driver saw the checkpoint, it was already too late to turn around without being chased down and shot at. "It's all over." The driver looked at Chu Russell next to him with a resentful expression. Generally, for such a large-scale opium transport, specialized armed forces would be dispatched for escort, led by elite troops from the group, armed and ready to match the police firepower. Why was it his unlucky day today? If the opium in the truck were found, even if he miraculously escaped the police's punishment, the drug lord would not let him, the driver, off the hook. Unfortunately, it was already too late for regrets. When the truck arrived at the checkpoint, several military police immediately started searching the vehicle with their dogs. Chu Russell looked calm, as what they were transporting was not opium, so he had nothing to fear. However, the driver, due to his excessive nervousness, aroused the suspicion of the police, resulting in a more thorough inspection of the truck. Still, in the end, nothing was found, and the dogs didn't detect the scent of opium. Indeed, the police had found Tianyuan hair growth liquid, but since it wasn't a dangerous substance, the police didn't take it seriously, allowing them to pass smoothly. After a rigorous search lasting over an hour, the truck was finally allowed to pass. The driver breathed a sigh of relief, his body already soaked with sweat. "Look how scared you got. Start driving." Chu Russell sneered, dismissing the driver's lack of courage. After driving for another half hour, the truck arrived at a small town near the border, finally stopping in the yard of a house. Chu Russell jumped down from the truck, called several accomplices from the house, and together they unloaded the Tianyuan hair growth liquid. After sending the driver away, the group immediately moved everything inside the house. After lifting a carpet, there was a disguised underground tunnel. This tunnel stretched under the U.S.-Mexico border and led directly into the United States. The tunnel was equipped with lighting lamps, oxygen cylinders, and storage units, making it very secret and safe. The group used a cart to load all the Tianyuan hair growth liquid, traveling along the underground tunnel to reach inside the United States. Several hours later, United States, Arizona, Phoenix. Chu Russell, wearing a trench coat, walked through the largest city in Arizona. Following the manual issued by his superiors, he targeted a neat, young white-collar worker with early baldness, approaching him step by step. "Hey, buddy, looking for goods?" He tapped the man's shoulder and lowered his voice. The white-collar worker was startled, glanced at Chu Russell's attire, and thinking he was being offered opium, repeatedly shook his head. No, I'm not an addict. I'm selling shampoo, Tianyuan hair growth liquid." Chu Russell opened his trench coat, revealing small pockets sewn inside, filled with bottles of Tianyuan hair growth liquid. "Tianyuan hair growth liquid?" The white-collar worker's tone immediately became excited. His eyes lit up, and he subconsciously touched his head. He had also used Tianyuan hair growth liquid before, but it was taken off the market, leading to shortages. His lush, flowing hair had fallen out. His new girlfriend had dumped him for his baldness, a dilemma that had troubled him for a long time as he wished to regain his hair. Upon seeing the Tianyuan hair growth liquid, the white-collar worker immediately got excited and hastily asked, "How much is this Tianyuan shampoo, and is it authentic?" $500, absolutely genuine. "Smell this scent, it's exactly like the original factories." There's a special substance inside that fake products simply can't replicate. Seeing there was a chance to make a sale, Chu Russell eagerly opened a bottle and let the other party take a sniff. "Give me 3 bottles, no, 5 bottles. Once he'd confirmed it was the real thing, the white-collar didn't even discuss the price and agreed on the spot, despite it being 3 times the regular price. Due to the Tianyuan hair growth liquid being taken off the shelves in the United States, the supply had become scarce and the price had risen sharply. You'd want to buy it for $500, but there was nowhere to get it, which is why the white-collar bought 5 bottles in one go, fearing he wouldn't be able to find it later. Chu Russell himself couldn't quite believe how easily he'd made the sale. This TM seems easier than selling opium. They didn't even haggle over the price. After the deal was struck, Chu Russell took the money and handed over 5 bottles of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, feeling that money was too easy to make for the first time. Could the market for this stuff really be that big? Not believing his luck, Chu Russell went to find other customers. He approached anyone with thinning hair, regardless of gender, and began to chat and pitch the product. He was astounded by the outcome of the transactions. The success rate was as high as 70%. The remaining 30% weren't disinterested buyers. They just didn't have the money. Yet they still wanted to take his number to call him once they had saved enough to purchase. By the end of one day of selling, and upon returning to his lodging, Chu Russell took stock and found that he had sold a grand total of 126 bottles of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, making $63,000. His eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw the number. You see, his income was linked to the sales volume. 3% commission was his wage. He made almost $2,000 in just one day, which could amount to $50,000 to $60,000 a month. And in the United States, an average middle-class income was around $70,000 to $170,000 per year. If he could continue to sell at these prices and volumes, he'd make $60,000 to $70,000 a year, which would definitely put him in the affluent class. Thinking this, Chu Russell's eyes reddened and his breathing grew heavy. In the past, even though he sold opium, the lion's share of the profits were devoured by the bosses and his life was only slightly better than average folks, with the risk of literally risking his neck. But now, selling shampoo could bring such exorbitant profits, and he instantly felt his head heat up, his heart thumping wildly. This was much quicker money than opium, and without the risks of opium trafficking. Making a fortune was effortlessly simple. No wonder the big boss Carter wants us to sell this. It's practically a money tree. Chu Russell, who had initially complained about Carter's methods, now realized that selling Tianyuan hair growth liquid was basically like stealing money. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became, and Chu Russell quickly took inventory of his stock, then called the organization inside Mexico to reserve the next batch of Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Sell? I'm going to sell it out. Chu Russell danced the samba in excitement in his room. The prospect of becoming wealthy had ignited his once restless heart, filling him with an overwhelming passion for entrepreneurship. In the following days, Chu Russell continued to roam the streets, peddling Tianyuan hair growth liquid. Every day he sold a large amount of product, counting cash until his hands grew tired. In just 3 days, he'd sold all the inventory he'd brought and joined some companions to head back to Mexico via the underground tunnel. After handing over the sales proceeds and receiving his commission, he acquired a new batch of Tianyuan hair growth liquid. The generous commissions greatly stimulated these people, who threw themselves into smuggling with even more passion. Similar actions spread throughout the Tijuana group, where batches of Tianyuan hair growth liquid were transported to the United States through underground tunnels. Then, through various middlemen, the liquid was distributed to the market and, because the quantity was so large, a further-reaching sales network developed. The middlemen acted as distributors, selling the Tianyuan hair growth liquid for a lower price to the locals, who were responsible for the sales. Tianyuan hair growth liquid had once sold up to 20 to 30 million a month in the United States, enough to prove how deeply its powerful effects resonated with people. Only those who had lost hair could understand the value of such a product. Therefore, when Tianyuan hair growth liquid re-entered the market, unless consumers were really strapped for cash, they found it hard to refuse the product. Under these circumstances, the once stagnant market was stirred up once again. In a short period, After the sales of Tianyuan hair growth liquid were banned in the United States, it was reborn in an alternative form and found its way again into many households, helping them regain their once youthful hair. On social media, while people were still debating whether the Tianyuan hair growth liquid was truly harmful to health, a new wave of comments flooded in. The newly bought Tianyuan hair growth liquid is as good as ever. Those worried about health have already gone bald, while I've long since regained my youthful hair. Keep ranting all you want, just don't buy it. Damn, where are you guys buying the Tianyuan hair growth liquid from? I want to buy it too. Give me the deets. If you're losing a lot of hair, just don't wear a hat when you go out on the street, and you'll be approached soon enough. You can add me. I can ship the product quickly. Go to the busy malls. There are many salespeople there. Are you all out of your mind? This product was taken off the shelves for a reason. There's a danger it could harm your health as per government warnings. You actually support products made in Hua country. A bunch of traders who are a disgrace to our United States. The idiots at the Commerce Department have made fools of themselves already. I've been wanting to curse them out. They prohibited a perfectly good hair growth liquid, causing the price to double if I want to buy a bottle now. They should all just drop dead. Bullshit, you bunch of idiots. What Tianyuan hair growth liquid causing harm to health? That's clearly just an interest group targeting Tianyuan hair growth liquid, wanting to seize their good product, and deliberately spreading fake news. If it were really harmful, how come I haven't had any problems after using it for so long? The miraculous medicine of Hua country's traditional medicine. I'm not afraid anyway. I'm going to keep using it, and if you don't use it, mind your own business. The debate raged on the internet, and these conversations made even more people aware of the smuggled Tianyuan hair growth liquid on the market, further boosting its sales. Batch after batch of Tianyuan hair growth liquid showed up on the market through underground channels, and despite large quantities leading to a price drop, still costing as much as $300 per bottle, buyers kept streaming in. As the market was roiled by the impact of Tianyuan hair growth liquid, the distress was widespread. Major retailers and the tax authorities were the first to panic. The former, who had made a killing from stocking and selling Tianyuan hair growth liquid, could only watch as smugglers took their share of profits, causing them intense distress. The tax authorities were even more furious. When Tianyuan hair growth liquid was a hot seller, the taxes paid were calculated in billions per month. But now, with it being smuggled in, the tax authorities couldn't collect a dime in taxes, and it was said that the head of the tax authorities was so angry he couldn't even eat. The anger extended beyond just these entities. Tianyuan Daily completely disregarded the hearings requested by the United States Commerce Department and continued to sell Tianyuan hair growth liquid within the country through smuggling, effectively slapping them in the face. Furthermore, the bragging by internet users on social platforms about obtaining Tianyuan hair growth liquid from the black market was like one slap after another on the face of the Commerce Department, drawing many onlookers who came with their popcorn to watch the eagle being laughed at.